Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Deku Created Spirit Animal? The story is written by Jace is dead on archiveofourown.org. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now, let's dive into the story. Izuku knew the streets and people well. He could tell when people were going to attack and when they were scared or if someone was feeling a certain way. He was able to read people and know who and who not to mess with or talk to. If you asked him how he knew, he would tell you it's sort of like a gut feeling. And when I look at people, the colors tell me what they feel. The reason he couldn't explain the colors and emotions he saw was because no one told him what it was. For all he knew, everyone saw like this. So it never made sense to him when one day one of the nice ladies at the flower shop said she didn't see that. "Why don't you see them, miss?" Izuku asked, sitting near the curb with the old woman. "Well, what you're describing must be your quirk." He gave the woman a confused look as she continued. "Many people are born with powers that allow them to do things that most normal humans wouldn't be able to do." She opened her hand, showing a peeling yellow flower. "Like mine. It allows me to grow flowers on my body. Yours must be an empath quirk." "What does that mean?" The woman smiled sweetly. "It means you must be able to see people's emotions. It's a very nice quirk." Izuku beamed at the woman as she asked him to explain the colors he saw on the people and her until he stopped and stared at a man who was smiling like nothing was wrong. "What's wrong, honey?" the woman asked, cautiously following his eyesight. "That man over there, his color is to toxic? Toxic black, it sounds like it's screaming." The woman looked to the man and pulled out her phone, grabbing Izuku with her. "Yes, hello? There's a man on XXX Street. He looks about 6 feet 5 inches with long red hair and it. Yes. Okay, thank you so much." Izuku kept his eyes on the man and watched as he entered a gas station, his color changing from the toxic-looking black to a BLD red that he had seen when he hurt himself. "Miss, they want to hurry." It changed to the bad red, and there's fear. The woman looked down and nodded her head, continuing to explain the situation to the police and heroes on the other end. Soon there was a gunshot and a loud scream as people began running away from the building in shock and fear. Izuku watched as everyone's colors changed in slightly different shades of purples and blues, except one woman who was sneaking out of sight from the man. Her color wasn't of fear and sadness, it was of rage, anger. No, it was more of protective rage that looked to be a deep pink with red wisps. He didn't know why, but the colors seemed almost welcoming, like she was a little scared but knew she could protect everyone. Soon the man was taken down by the police and the woman Izuku had seen. Apparently, he was trying to rob the place using his quirk. Once he was taken down, they started questioning the people around and asking who called the police and why. Izuku watched close by and listened to everyone talking while watching their colors change from purples and blues to greens, while the officers were ranging from all colors. "What are you doing over here by yourself?" Izuku jumped and turned, seeing the woman from the store. I was watching colors." The woman quirked an eyebrow but still smiled and leaned down. "And what are the colors?" "I thought that they were seen by everyone, but one of the nice ladies at the flower shop said it was my quirk and that I was an EMP empath." The woman smiled and nodded her head. "And what are my colors then?" Izuku stared at her for a while before answering. "They're pinks and yellows." "Very pretty." The woman stood in shock but giggled and smiled. "You're so adorable." "Thank you, honey." She hugged Izuku, making him squeak. "Now why don't we go and find your parents?" Izuku just smiled at the woman before turning around. "It's okay. My mom's just over there." "Thank you, though." Izuku turned and ran the other way towards an alley before climbing back up a fire escape and looking over the side of the building. He grabbed his bag, slinging it over his shoulders before running across the roofs to make it to his work. As he made it to the building, he pulled out his uniform, which was just black jeans and a white shirt with paint on it, and made his way inside. "I'm Midoriya. Glad you could make it." His boss was a nice younger-looking man with silver hair and gold eyes. "No one's touched the wall, and it's coming out great. The paints are over there." Izuku nodded his head and walked over to the area and grabbed the spray paint and bottles of paint. The wall his boss was talking about was in his cafe. He was asked to do a mural of sorts to try and make it feel more homey. The mural was of cherry blossoms and people outside drinking coffee and talking in silhouettes. He changed into his uniform before starting on the painting again. He worked quietly with some people watching and enjoying it as he went. He didn't pay attention as he worked since he was focused on the work ahead. He had finished up for the day, worked about 3 hours, when he felt someone tap his shoulder. He turned around and was greeted by the woman from before with a smile. "Well, hey kid, I didn't expect to see you here." Izuku smiled and chuckled. "Yeah, it's nice to see you again as well." "Wow, this is good kid, how old are you?" Izuku stopped having to think about it for a minute. "I think around 8 or 9. The woman stopped for a minute, but smiled again, but a little strained. But that didn't stop the colors Izuku saw. "Oh, well, you're very talented for someone your age." "Thank you, miss." "Oh, I'm Kiyama Namiri. But you can just call me Kiyama. Now what's your name?" "Midoriya Izuku. Nice to meet you, Miss Kiyama." Izuku grabbed his things and left without letting Kiyama speak. She watched as the boy left, worried as to why he didn't even know his own age or what a quirk was. "Come at midnight. We need some help over here." Kiyama put her hand to her ear. "I'll be over there soon." So, an empath helped get the police there early, and then you ran into him again, working on that art piece in the cafe? Snipe asked after listening to her tell the story. Worst part was I don't think he has parents. He didn't know what a quirk was till today, and he didn't know how old he was. Kiyama explained. "Did he give you a name?" Aizawa asked about to search for it. "He did, but the name wasn't on any record I could find." "That's definitely worrying, but if he's made it on the street this long, he should still be fine." Aizawa reasoned. "I guess you're right." Izuku ran through the alleys, trying to lose the people chasing after him. "Come on, kid. Stop running and come with us already." Izuku sped up and jumped onto a dumpster before launching himself onto an old ladder leading to a fire escape. He pulled himself up, getting to the roof, continuing running even though the men had stopped. He didn't stop until he got to a few blocks away and sat down to take a breather. "Well, hello there. Shouldn't you be at home?" He whipped around, jumping up into a fighting stance, ready to run again, until he saw who it was, a wave of familiarity washing over him as. He recognized the aura and relaxed slightly. "Sorry, Miss Kiyama. Some people were chasing me, and I had to get away. I'll go back." He was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. "Wait, how did you recognize me?" He turned around with a quirked eyebrow and tilted his head. "Your colors and feeling, I remembered it from this morning and afternoon." Midnight looked shocked, but laughed anyway. "That's pretty cool, kid. But does your mother know you're out here?" Izuku nodded his head before explaining. "Yes, she does. I was going out for a walk and got stopped." "Don't worry, I'll head back." He left again without letting her finish or follow him. He ran back to his home, which was just a beach dump where he turned a large bus into a small house. He came in through the top window, dropping down onto an old mattress. He put his bag on the desk and pulled out his sketchbook, pencils, markers, notebook, and a few textbooks. He had stopped at the library to pick up some books to start learning about quirks since he was already caught up in normal academics. He opened it up and stared reading through the first book explaining quirks. As he read on, he took notes about his quirk and what it could do if he tried it out more. "So I can see people's emotions by the colors." He began writing down what colors meant what and the different combinations. "I wonder if..." He stood up and walked over to a broken mirror. He looked at himself trying to see any colors, but couldn't. Well, not exactly. He could see every color, but not in a normal sense. What he saw was all white. He couldn't see anything else besides that, and it confused him. He walked back over his desk and wrote down what he found out. He closed the book and pulled out a new one to learn about empaths. Empaths often cannot read their emotions on their own. There can also be a partner quirk with it to give it more strength. Izuku paused and read it over again and wrote down the note in the book to possibly test out later. After a while more, or reading and taking notes, he put everything away and decided to go to sleep. "You ran into him the other night, too?" President Mike asked, sitting down at his desk with some papers. "Yeah. He said he recognized me because of my colors?" "I think it was," Kiyama explained, looking up from her work. "Makes sense. It said many empaths can easily identify people." Aizawa said, waking up from the couch in his sleeping bag. "Finally get rid of your class, then?" Vlad King asked, walking in. "No talent or potential." Izuku sat under the tree, drawing in his sketchbook. It was of flowers, when a figure stood in front of him, blocking the sun. He looked up, seeing a boy his age with ash blonde hair and red eyes. His color was a mix of navy blue and greens with wisps of red. I haven't seen an extra like you before. Who are you? The blonde almost shouted out with little pops from his hands. Why are you calling me an extra? Izuku asked a little confused. The boy's colors quickly changed to a light purple before going back. Because that's what I call everyone. Now tell me your name. Midoriya Izuku, what do I call you? The boy seemed shocked again, but squatted down. Bakugo Katsuki, what are you drawing? His colors lost the reds and some of the blues and going into greens and yellows. Flowers that I saw when I was walking. Bakugo sat down next to him and watched him draw. Do you draw heroes? Izuku looked up and nodded his head, flipping through the pictures, showing them some. I don't know a lot about heroes, but I've seen them a lot before, like this one. He stopped longer on one of the other picture with a buff strong man on it. That's All Might. He's the coolest. Izuku listened as the boy went on and on about heroes and who were the strongest. Anyway, what's your quirk? Izuku tapped his chin, trying to think about it. Well, I can't sort of see and sense emotions. It's called being an empath, but I haven't been able to figure everything out about it. That sounds like a weak quirk to me. Izuku nodded his head, thinking, he didn't know the range, but I sweat nitroglycerin and make it explode on my palms. Bakugo showed him as the small pops appeared in his hands. Wow, that's pretty cool. Does it hurt? Nah. Only if I use it too much does it start to hurt my wrist and arms, though. Izuku nodded his head, remembering that for later. I don't know if mine affects me like that yet. I'll have to figure that out. Yeah, whatever. I'll be back here tomorrow if you want to hang out or whatever. Izuku smiled at the boy. Sure, I'll stop by. Okay, thanks so much for working on this, Midoriya. Here's your final payments, and you can keep the supplies. I'll make sure to show people your work. Is there a way I can contact you? Izuku pulled out his phone from his bag and opened it. Yep, I was able to finally get one. Izuku gave him his number as he left and collected his stuff. As he walked down the street, he stopped when he recognized someone with one other person. Oh, Miss Kiyama, it's good to see you. She looked up and smiled, walking closer to the boy. Nice to see ya, little Midoriya. How's it been? The other man looked confused. I'm doing good. How are you? I'm fantastic. Me and my friend Ida Tensei here are just about to meet up with two of our other friends. Izuku smiled and bid them goodbye before running off. That's the boy you keep running into. Kiyama nodded her head. He's such a nice kid. It would surprise me if he didn't have a family. Looking over the water, Izuku drew the night sky and reflective water with a small smile. He had been getting quite a few jobs recently and was getting more supplies to use and was able to get other things like a phone and headphones for when he worked. He sat there peacefully till he felt something touch his leg. He jumped and looked down to see a small, glowing dragon that had white, almost burning wings. It walked closer to him as he just looked at it in shock, its color changing to a light purple tint to the white. He held out his hand, letting it sniff it before it cuddled up to him. He looked at it in wonder before flipping to a new page and sketching it, the small creature taking notice and doing poses and breathing small flames. Are you part of my quirk? The small dragon only stared at him as he picked it up. He walked over to the mirror again and looked at the white surrounding him. It was dimmer, and there was a small, almost string-like line that connected the two. So, you're a part of me? Cool. After Izuku explained everything to Bakugo about what he learned with the appearance of the small dragon, and how he thinks it was connected to the emotions of the person. Do you think it's like some F-spirit animal? Bakugo language, also maybe. It would make sense maybe I can. He focused on the colors on Bakugo until the colors slowly shifted to a spiky cat and jumped on Bakugo's shoulder, both boys standing in shock and looking at the animal. You can see it, right? Yes, I can see it. What is it? And why is it green and yellow? It's the color I usually see when we hang out, I think. I think it changes color based on your emotions. Then why the hell is yours a dragon and white? I don't know. Night I was walked the streets on a patrol of sorts. He was off duty, but he had decided to walk, seeing he would run into someone important later. For some reason, he couldn't tell who he would run into, only that they would be an empath. It wasn't busy seeing as it was pretty late, and most people were asleep or inside. He continued walking till he saw something that put him on edge. He paused and hid around the corner. Come on, kid. We've gotten bored of chasing you, got it? So why don't you come peacefully? Night, I waited for the right time until he saw what his quirk told him. Apparently, the boy was going to take them down on his own. He heard them shouting and running until he saw the boy run out of the alley and twist, kicking both the men in the face, knocking them out. He slid on his back until he stopped and caught his breath. He stood up and whipped his face, finally noticing Sir Night-Eye. "Oh, sorry, sir. I didn't mean to disturb your night. I'll be going now." Before he could I grabbed his arm, making him jump. He quickly let go of his arm. "Sorry, but why were they after you?" The boy froze up and started fidgeting while looking at the ground. "Oh, well, mister, Sir Knight, well, Sir Knight, I don't think I'm supposed to." "Knight," I stared at the kid as he stood there awkwardly shifting his feet. "If it's because I'm a stranger, then it would make sense. But seeing as I'm a hero, you should be able to tell me." The boy just kept staring at him, a little confused. "Sorry, I don't know a lot about heroes." "Knight," I cocked an eyebrow. "Shouldn't your parents or school have taught you of them?" The boy stiffened before rubbing his neck and chuckling. "Oh yeah, I guess they should have." He looked at the ground again. "Knight," I already realizing that he didn't have parents and lived on the streets. "Yes, now, will you tell me why they were chasing you?" "Oh, well, I don't know really. At first they mentioned wanting to use me as a test subject, I think. But after I took them down and ran a lot, they started going after me to recruit me, I think." "And how were you able to run away so many times?" "My quirk allows me to see and create things from emotions. It also lets me see people like a radar." "Then how did I sneak up on you?" The boy jumped a little and smiled. "Oh, I was focusing on the other two more than anything, so I didn't notice. I was looking for specific emotions, and you didn't have any." "And what does my emotions show?" The boy stared at him long with his eyes going from green to white. "Greens and oranges? So you're most likely calm, but curious about why I'm here and out alone." He watched as the color shifted. "Or, not you already know why I'm not at home then." Knight, I looked slightly impressed. "What else can you do with your quirk?" He already saw what he could do, but was still curious. "I can sort of summon people's spirit animals, I think it is, as well as weapons, sort of. It works weirdly, and I haven't tested it on someone, but I don't plan to," the boy assured, waving his hands around. "I didn't think you would, but I'll have to take you off the street." The boy froze before his eyes turned to green again, and there was a flash of light. "Sorry, sir, but I'd rather not," was shouted as the boy went away from the scene. "Seems like you aren't the only one to be seeing this boy, Namuri," Izawa said, handing her a file. She opened it with a picture of the boy from a security camera sitting on a roof drawing. She looked below it and saw all the information on him. Midia Izuku, BRTHD, unknown, age 8 to 9, quirk, empath, able to see emotions in color, able to summon spirit animals, not proven, cause blasts of light, summon weapons, not proven, eyes change to green when using quirk besides just seeing emotions, able to focus in on specific emotions. Wow, how did they get so much on him? Kiyama asked, setting the file down. Apparently, Sir Night-Eye himself had a run-in and couldn't bring the boy in to question him and put him in the system. Izawa explained, sitting at his own desk. "Wow, kid sure gets around. Hope he's okay. So you can create bursts of light now?" Bakugu asked. "I guess so. It was kind of weird. Afterwards, it felt kind of, I don't know, not tiring, but more of emotionally exhausted." "Well, you said when you looked at yourself, you saw the color white, right? So you probably used your own emotions to attack." "Yep, that makes sense." The two stood back up again and faced each other. They had known each other for a few months now and had quickly found out that they liked to spar together since they could both take it. "Could you use your quirk to attack in another way?" Bakugu asked, jumping away as Izuku kicked up. "Don't know, I could try." Izuku grabbed Bakugu's wrist and pushed it away as he exploded it. "You mentioned some shitty weapons? Try doing one of those things." Both got a hit on each other, sending them away from the other. Izuku focused on the image of a knife he had seen before, trying to imagine it in his hand. Soon a light formed into his hand, turning into a knife. Bakugu came at him again, sending an explosion. Izuku swung the blade at the explosion, seeing what would happen. Both watched as the explosion turned to two and went around Izuku with a gust of wind. "Holy SHD Midoriya." Both stared in shock at the blade in his hand as it glowed the white light. He opened his palm all the way, then smashed it close, making the small blade disappear. "Oh my god, that's so cool." Izuku started messing with his quirk to see if he could make different weapons. Bakuga watched and started asking some questions and helping him test out the different possibilities. Izuku sat on one of the many roofs looking over the streets. He watched as people walked around the area talking or on their phones. He did this often just to see the different colors and combinations of them on the different people. He would also try to see if he could summon their spirit animals. He found out that his animal changed to what he was feeling, but it almost always defaulted to a dragon. Many people had normal ones like cats or dogs and maybe birds, but he was always curious to see the different ones. It was silent as he drew and colored some of the animal, until he felt a rumble from the ground. He stopped and focused on the emotion of fear. He looked over to the south and saw a cluster of fear. He opened his range and saw hurt and rage. He stood up and put his supplies in his bag before running across the roofs to get to the location. As he got closer, he saw people running and yelling with another rumble. He got closer to the building. He saw people running out. He focused on the emotions on the inside and only found the one with rage and another one with anger and annoyance. Both made it outside, and Izuku saw who it was. It was Sir Knight, I, and another man. The other man seemed to be the one making the building shake. Izuku watched as the two fought. Knight, I being the one winning. Ruble began to fall off from the building. Luckily people had left, but Knight, I was in the way of some of the ruble. Without thinking, Izuku jumped down, summoning his knife and cutting the ruble to smaller pieces. Then he summoned a white shield and held it over him and Knight Eye. Once the ruble stopped, Izuku got rid of them, making them disappear. He looked over and saw the other man had been knocked out, but was otherwise fine. He looked up at Knight Eye and smiled. Sorry I stepped in, but it looked like you needed help, sir. Knight I only looked down and nodded his head. It's fine, but I must deal with this villain while you go home. Izuku nodded his head and quickly left, going back to the beach. What are you writing about, nerd? Bakuga asked, walking up to the boy at the park. I'm writing what I know about my quirk and what I could do with it. Huh, do you want to be a hero? Izuku looked up a little confused. Bakuga, you know I don't know a lot about them. Izuku chuckled. Yeah, I know. I could tell you about them, shitty nerd. Bakuga began explaining what heroes do and anything else he could think of. So do you want to be a F hero or a not shitty nerd? I guess it would be interesting and I would like to help people. Well, then if you want to be the best or second best, because I'll be the best, then when you go into high school, you'll want to apply to UA. They have the best hero classes. Yeah, I'll try for it. Nao Mesa looked over the file. It was a mysterious one indeed. The person didn't seem to be a vigilante, but they didn't avoid danger like a normal citizen. They also weren't on any record alive or dead. He read over the file again. Midoriya Izuku, quirk, empath, able to see people's emotions and colors, create weapons and protection out of emotions, summon spirit animals. Eyes change to green when using powers, but otherwise white or clear. Most likely lives on street. No known family. So far, the boy had ran into two well-known heroes, and a few had apparently seen him, but not reported it. It was strange. When he ran into the two other heroes, he had apparently not known who they were and referred to them both politely and talked to them normally, even after figuring out who they were. I'm going out. I'll be back in an hour. Nao Mesa picked his jacket up and walked out of the station, heading to a small cafe in the area to get a drink and food. He walked quietly, keeping an eye out for people and enjoying the calmness of the city. He walked and got a coffee, heading back out to the street. Though he was interrupted when he ran into someone, the person fell but stood back up. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay, sir? Nao Mesa looked up and smiled. Don't sweat it, kid. I'm not in a rush. He looked up at the kid and froze for a minuet. Are you sure, sir? You seem a little shocked. Nao Mesa quickly calmed down and waved his hand. No, it's okay. Just caught a little off guard. Are you okay? Izuku smiled and nodded his head. Yes, I'm fine. He looked at the spilled coffee on the ground. Oh, but I spilled your coffee. Here, I'll get you another one. Izuku didn't leave room to argue as he walked away, heading back to the cafe with the detective following. It's okay. Midoriya, Izuku, Midoriya, I could just get one on my own. Nope, I'll get you one. After all, it's my fault you spilled it. They both walked in and went to the counter, both ordering one and Izuku paying for it. As much as I appreciate you buying me coffee, shouldn't you be at school? Izuku took a sip before smiling at him. No, not today. Truth. Naomasa quirked an eyebrow at his quirk, telling him it was the truth. But shouldn't you be at work? No, I'm on break, just plan on getting a coffee and sitting around. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to keep you, sir. Don't worry about it, Midoriya. You haven't kept me from anything. The two sat in a comfortable silence as they drank their coffees. Naomasa began thinking to himself as he drank. The kid is very polite, even if he's grown up on the streets. But something's off. He's obviously been taught something since he can talk perfectly fine and can most likely read and write. But he doesn't know about heroes or quirks, or taught the difference of everything. Both jumped slightly when Naomasa's phone went off. He pulled it out and looked at the person texting him. Toshinori, I'll be dropping by soon, probably around the next few days. He replied quickly and looked back at Izuku with a smile. Sorry about that. A friend of mine is dropping by later this week. Oh, no worries, sir. Izuku quickly finished his drink and stood up. Well, I should leave. Have a good day. Naomasa jumped and stopped him, making the boy flinch. Sorry. How about I walk you back home to make sure you get there safe? Little did Naomasa know Izuku watched as the colors shifted, meaning his words weren't what he was planning on doing. Though it wasn't anything bad, it still set him on edge. Sure thing. The two walked out of the shop and started walking. As they walked, it was silent until Izuku broke it. As much as I appreciate, sir, I'm assuming you don't know what my quirk is. I'm an empath, and I usually watch people's emotions in case of anything. So why did you really want to walk with me? Naomasa jumped a little and laughed nervously before answering. Well, to be honest, you apparently ran into a few of my friends, and they wanted to make sure you were okay. Izuku didn't see any lies, but not a full truth. He smiled and accepted it. Oh, do you mean Miss Kiyama or Sir Night Eye? It would be Kiyama that I see the most. Well, I'm doing fine. Naomasa soon noticed that no one else was around them, but I really have to leave, so it was nice meeting you, sir. You can call me Detective Tsukachi. Well, Mr. Detective, I'll see y'all later. Izuku quickly ducked out before Naomasa could do anything and ran down an alley and up the fire escape. Damn it. If you can read people's emotions, create weapons from yours, and summon people's spirit animals, what the hell else can you do then? Bakugo asked as they trained again, both using their quirks. I don't know, I think that I would have to train my quirk more and try. Well then, try it later and get back to me, but had. Both stopped getting in good hits before taking a breath. Can I call you Katsuki? What? Bakugo turned around and tried to hit him only for Izuku to dodge. Well, we've known each other for a while now, I think. So why not? Bakugo glared before huffing. Fine, Izuku. Izuku cheered and tackled the boy into a hug, making the other squawk before falling. Hey, Zashi, how long have we had Itoshi? Aizawa asked, looking up from his computer. I think almost a year now. We got him when he was around 9, and he's about 10, right? Aizawa's eyes widened. Wow, we've had him for a while. Maybe we should do something special. Yamada started rattling this off that they could do once Shinsuo got out of the school. Wait, but first, once he's out, we should go to the park. Aizawa nodded his head, deciding that it would be something to start something good off. As Shinsuo ran out of the school to avoid the bullies that always tried to follow him. He heard them yelling as they chased after him down the path from the school. As he was running, he ran past an alley only to be grabbed and pulled in. He began, thrashing only to hear a young voice. Hey, calm down, I'm not going to hurt you, okay? He stopped moving as much and decided to see how this would play out. The bullies ran past the person led him inside. I am so sorry. I saw them chasing you. And it looked like you needed help, and then I just sort of grabbed you and dashed. Shinsuo just stared as the boy continued to ramble, only to stop and look at Shinsuo. Sorry, it's a habit, but are you okay? Shinsuo just nodded his head, still a little scared, but the other boys seemed to relax and soften almost. It's okay, you can talk. I'm not scared of your quirk if that's the problem. Shinsuo's eyes widened, and he opened his mouth to talk, but almost nothing came out until he took a breath. How did you know that? I heard some people talking about it when I was walking by your school. They mentioned someone with a villain quirk and how it was through speech. With your emotions and reactions, I figured it was you. Shinsuo looked shocked at the explanation, but before he could ask anything, he heard a familiar laughter. Well, if it isn't Mr. Villain, what did you do to this guy? Did you use your quirk on him too? Shinsuo opened his mouth to speak, but quickly closed it remembering what the boy had said he would do if he talked. He didn't do anything, so why don't you back off? Shinsuo was amazed by the anger radiating off of the boy. Oh, and what are you going to do, pretty boy? Pretty boy? Really? That's the best he could do. Shinsuo thought to himself as he watched the boy step in front of him. I'll kick your butt is what? Shinsuo's eyes widened as the boy cursed, didn't think he'd swear. Oh yeah. He watched as his main attacker's hands started to glow green as small fires started on his hands. But before he could do anything, he saw a glowing light in the boy's hand that turned into a white, glowing throwing knife. The green-haired boy simply drew his hand back and threw the object for it to only cut the boy's cheek. That seemed to stop it all as the attacker brought his hand to the cut and smirked. That's all you can do. The green-haired boy smirked as another throwing knife appeared in his hand, but this time it was an electric yellow. He held it by the end of the blade. If I hit you with this, it will shock the nerves it hits, making it hard to move that part of your body. Want to try it out? The attacker flinched before trying to play it off. Ugh, whatever. They left the alley, leaving the two alone. The boy sighed as he offered a hand to help Shinsuo up. Are you okay? Shinsuo was a little surprised still, but stood up anyway. Yeah, I'm fine, but why did you help me? The other boy just smiled. Because you looked like you needed help. My mom taught me to always help others and be kind. Shinsuo stood surprised still as the boy seemed to almost look through the walls. How about I walk you home as well? Those people are still around there and are waiting for me to leave, it seems like. Shinsuo quirked an eyebrow. How can you tell that? HM? Oh, well, I'm an empath. I can see emotions, kind of like an outline of the person. I can see them from almost anywhere if I'm focusing. So, I saw the mother there. He pointed a finger behind Shinsuo. Shinsuo looked behind him, but only seeing a wall. Sure, I guess. The two started walking with the boy, following Shinsuo's lead. Oh, I should have asked for your name. My name's Midoriya Izuku. What's yours? Shinsuo just looked at the smiling boy, a little confused. He had heard his dad's and aunt mentioning someone named that, but how could this kid cause them trouble? Shinsuo Hitoshi. Izuku nodded as they continued to walk in silence. To Shinsuo's surprise, it wasn't awkward, just calm and silent. He appreciated it since a lot of times he didn't like to talk due to his quirk and old parents and staying places. Soon they arrived at Shinsuo's house. Izuku turned to the boy and smiled. Well, I'll let you leave. Have a nice day, Shinsuo. The boy quickly ducked behind another alley and disappeared before the other could say anything. That guy has a lot of energy, was all Shinsuo said as he unlocked the door and walked in. His dad would be out in an hour or so he had some time to himself. He walked into his room and opened the computer, looking at random stuff as he waited for them to arrive. Hi, Tutushi Shiai. He jumped as he heard his pops yell while opening the door. Zashi, calm down. He smiled lightly as he made his way out of the room and into the living room where he saw his dad's and aunt. And Amuri, what are you doing here? He asked, seeing the other smile widely. You have officially been a part of this family for a year, so we decided to go to the park, then out celebrating. Shinsuo's eyes widened as he rubbed his neck. He hid the emotion he felt when they mentioned the park, but otherwise he was happy. Sounds like a good idea. He went to his room and changed cloths, slipping into a black hoodie and dark jeans. Izuku made his way back from helping Shinsuo to the park near there. He always liked going there to draw and test out anything he could, mostly the weapons and animals. He had recently found out that many things were alive, such as plants. He could even read plants' emotions and use it to communicate. Even after that, he found out that many were attracted to his energy and would grow into anything he needed, like if he had a cut that would make themselves into something he could use. He also found, depending on the emotion he created with his weapons, could affect what they did, like the yellow was electricity, blue was water, light blue was ice, red was fire, green was plants, and brown was the ground. There were many other colors, but he hadn't tested them all out safely yet, so he wasn't quite sure what they fully did. He could also now use them to create colors on paper and other materials he wanted. He sat down at the base of a tree alone this time, but Kugu had gotten sick recently, so he wasn't there. He reached into his bag and pulled out his sketchbook, starting to finish the drawing of Bakugo he had. So far he had him drawn, but he needed to add more shading and find out what he wanted to do for colors if he even wanted to do colors. It was silent as he sat under the tree, and only the scratch of high pencil could be heard until he looked up and met a pair of eyes. Shinsuo walked with his two dads and aunt as they made their way towards the park. He was nervous going there, but had hid it well enough that the adults didn't notice. It's not that he hated the park necessarily. It was just that he didn't have friends, and the people that messed with him were almost always there. He couldn't blame his parents for taking him there, since if he ever came home late or something, he would always say he was at the park or on a walk. So no, he didn't blame them, but he still wasn't happy about it. Maybe I'll run into that Midoriya kid again. He wasn't terrible, Shinsuo thought as they finally made it to the park. Okay, kid, go have fun. Aizawa nudged him slightly, and Shinsuo elbowed him playfully before walking slightly as the adults went to sit down at the bench. He looked around for something to do until he connected his eyes with almost complete white ones. He stared for a minuet until the person smiled and waved him over. He walked over a little hesitant as Izuku closed his sketchbook. Hi Shinsuo, I didn't expect to see you here. Izuku greeted, sounded almost sing-songy. You didn't expect it either. Do you live by here too? Izuku chuckled, but smiled anyway. You could say that. Izuku's eyes drifted and saw 3 sets of eyes looking at them. Do you know them, Shinsuo? He asked, not sounding a little worried, but he kept smiling. Shinsuo looked to where he met and sighed. Yeah, they're my dad's and Aunt Namuri. Izuku perked up at the name. Oh, I've met Miss Kiyama. I didn't know she was your aunt. That's cool. Shinsuo was a little confused at that. Well, I didn't think you would. We just met today, but how do you know Aunt Namuri? Oh, well, there was a robbery, and me and another lady called the police. She tried to help me to my mom, but I told her it was fine. Then again at a cafe, where I was painting, and she finally introduced herself. But then we met that night again when I was being chased. She tried taking me back home, but I assured her I was fine and left. Shinsuo's eyes widened a little as he thought out the information. He doesn't have a home or parents. Shinso nodded his head, but he could almost see Izuku reading him as his eyes became a little more green. That's why they were talking about him. Okay, sound chaotic. Do you want to go say hi? Izuku looked back over to the adults before looking at Shinsuo seriously. Do they know about those people trying to hurt you? Shinsuo was definitely shocked about that, but shook his head no. Okay, I'll come up with a different way we met then. He stood up and offered his hand to Shinsuo, who took it slowly. They walked over with Izuku chatting about random things to make it seem casual. Dad, Pops, Aunt, this is Midoriya. He's a friend of mine. Shinsuo was hoping calling him that wouldn't go badly. Yep, nice to meet you. And it's good to see you again, Miss Kiyama. I didn't know you knew Shinsuo. Izuku said, being calm, even though the adults were a little shocked that the kid they had heard about was friends with Shinsuo. Nice to meet you, Midoriya. You can call me Aizawa. Izuku nodded his head and looked to Yamada. Nice to meet a friend of our son's. You can call me Yamada, little listener. Izuku smiled and nodded his head. How did you and Hitoshi meet? Aizawa asked with a questioning glare. As Izuku began to explain the story, Shinsuo pulled Kiyama away. This is the kid you've been looking for? He asked with an unimpressed look. Yes, you'd be surprised how fast he can get away from someone. He even got away from Night Eye. Shinsuo's eyes widened a little, but he kept his mind on track. Is it because illegal quirk usage? Kiyama shook her head no. Then it is because he doesn't have parents or a home. Well, me and Shinso met when Dash. He looked over and saw Shinsuo walking away with Kiyama. He paused and moved his hands as he spoke. Can either of you read sign? Both adults seemed a little shocked but nodded their heads. Okay, good. I'm going to keep talking, but I need you to read my hands. He began telling them how Shinsuo and him met while he signed the real story. Shinsuo is being bullied. I heard some of the other people talking about someone with a villain's quirk and decided to figure out who. When I saw Shinsuo being chased, I helped him get away and make the others leave. And that's how me and Shinsuo met. Izuku said as he put his hands down, both adults processing the information given to them, with Aizawa first to speak. Thanks for telling us. Do you have a home? Izuku was a little caught off guard but nodded his head. Of course, everyone does. Yamada gave Aizawa a worried glance at the answer. What about parents? He got another answer like before until he sighed. I mean, are they with you? They're always with me, sir. That made both adults' eyes widen with shock, so they were dead. Kid, I need you to come Y-dash. Izuku cut him off by waving over Shinsuo as the other two came back. Sorry I have to go, Shinsuo, but I hope you all have a nice day. Kid dash by. Izuku quickly left and ducked into an alley, leaving the group behind. All Might was visiting Japan in a skeleton form. He had decided to visit both of his friends there to catch up on what was happening. What he wasn't expecting was the fact that both of them had ran into a child, and the boy seemed to be all over the place. The kid's been all over the place. A lot of heroes have been running into him recently, but didn't know who he was until he left. Then they would add the sitting into my case file on the kid. So far, all we have is that he's a strong empath, able to create weapons and animals with the emotions. He knows how to fight and escape easily. And when he's using his quirk, his eyes go from all white to having green. May I ask why you're after the young man? All Might asked, a little confused. It just sounded like the kid was a delinquent, but polite at least. It's pretty obvious that Midoriya doesn't have parents. That made All Might spit a little BLD out anytime heroes have hinted at helping him home or taking him to his parents. He leaves before they can follow him. He also seems to be being chased by someone, with what we've heard from Night, I, and the other heroes says is true. Do we know who's chasing him then? No idea. We can't question him since he leaves quickly without hinting at anything about it. It all seemed weird to All Might, a child that didn't know or seem to understand the concept of heroes, being chased, and wouldn't allow the heroes to question him for long. Once he had visited and caught up with his friends and mentor, he had decided to go for a nice walk around the park. It was pretty quiet and peaceful since it was pretty late in the day with the sunset in the background. As he walked, he saw no one at the park except a lone boy who was sitting under a tree appearing to draw. My boy, why are you out here all alone? The boy looked up a little shocked. All Might looked at his eyes, seeing them almost completely white. It reminded him of something, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Oh, sorry, sir. I must have lost track of time. I can leave. The boy stood up to go, but All Might stopped him, making the boy flinch slightly, but not pull away. Oh no, please, my boy, stay. I was just curious. Most people your age tend to not go out a lot, it would seem. The boy smiled at him and sat back down. If you'd like, sir, you can join me. All Might thought about it before sitting next to the boy under the tree. What are you drawing, my boy? The boy stopped moving his pencil and tilted the page slightly to show him the drawing. It was of a galaxy that seemed to flow into flowers at the top of the page. You are quite talented, it would seem. The boy blushed a little. Thank you, sir. He went back to drawing before speaking. You can call me Midoriya, though. And what should I call you? Yagi works, young Midoriya. The two continued to sit in silence until it seemed to get later than expected, and Tsukachi ended up finding him. Tashinori, it's late, you need to dash. The detective stopped as he spotted the young boy sitting next to the hero. Oh, Midoriya, it's good to see you're doing well. The boy looked up and smiled. It's good to see you, to Mr. Detective. Still sorry about the coffee. The detective chuckled. No worries, though I see you found my friend. He turned to the older man and smiled. It's about time you head home, though it's pretty late. He turned back to the boy. Midoriya, why don't you come with us? All Might understood what the detective was doing. The boy seemed to always run away, but with the two of them, it would be more difficult for him to run away. Sorry, sir, but I have to be going. One of my friends and I are going to hang out in the morning. Have a nice night. Before either could think, the boy quickly ran with his bag faster than they would have been able to get him. Tashinori, you idiot. Izuku had just finished hanging out with Bakugo again when he was walking home. He hadn't ran into the people that usually chase after him in a while, and it was starting to worry him. He may not have had a normal life, but he always had a feeling when something was wrong. He kept walking around the city for a minute when he spotted someone or something surrounded by people. Come on, you filthy animal. Put them paws up. Izuku could almost laugh at the line that the man had said. He must not have known who he was trying to rob. Izuku recognized him as the principal of UA, one of the smartest people alive. I don't think that will be necessary. Nedzu responded with a smile. Izuku was already running as quietly as possible before he would be able to get the man. When he was close enough, he jumped up high enough to land on the man's shoulders and hitting him over the head. Are you okay, sir? Izuku asked, standing up and brushing off his cloth before kneeling slightly. Quite all right, young man, but what are you doing out so late? I was coming back from friend's place, and I got a little sidetracked, I guess. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly as he answered. I see. Well, Midoriya, is Izuku correct? The boy was caught off guard but nodded his head. Well, how about you join me for some tea? Izuku paused for a second thinking about it. This was the smartest person alive, and if he says no, the mammal might already have a counterplan. I'm sure, but why, sir? Some of my associates wish to talk to you, and I want to see where it all will lead. Izuku was nervous. The aura around the principal wasn't bad. In fact, there didn't seem to be any danger in it. But Izuku wasn't worried about him. He was worried about the others he seemed to have ran into. He didn't want to bother them, so he never stayed long if he ran into them, because he thought that maybe he was bothering them. If you think you're bothering them, then you're quite wrong. Izuku looked at him a little surprised, but nodded his head anyway. Won't they be mad that I run all the time, though? Nedzu shook his head as they continued. No, they only worry since you're quite young to be on the streets. Why are you on the streets? Izuku looked down, but kept walking. I don't know. I was just raised here and have lived on the streets ever since, I think. Nedzu was a little shocked. It was strange since there was some information on the boy beside from what the heroes learned, but otherwise there was none. I see. Well, what are your parents? Izuku kind of looked into the sunrise. My dad died when I was younger. My mom and him taught me everything I needed to know, so I would be okay on the streets and caught up on school stuff. I just never knew what a quirk was until recently. I just thought everyone saw what I did. Nedza nodded, and they walked silently until they reached the school. Aizawa was confused and annoyed about being kept later. Nedzu had asked a few of them to stay later since he had a surprise for them, but didn't give any hint as to what it was. What do you think it is? Midnight asked through a yawn. It wasn't super late, but they all had been dealing with some of the new students. Not sure. He didn't leave a hint or anything like usual. Aizawa said with Ho's eyes closed, relaxed in a chair with his husband next to him. And it was only us three. Nedzu mentioned meeting up with someone later, but that was it. I mean, come on. Yamada yelled in frustration as he sunk back into one of the chairs. It was silent for a moment as they all thought of anything that all three of them were involved in, but came up empty. That was at least until there was a knock at the door before it was opened, revealing Detective Tsukachi, Sir Night-Eye, and a skeleton-looking man. He called you three here to? Aizawa asked, cracking one eye open. It would seem, though I don't know why. Night, I said, sitting down in one of the chairs with the skeleton sitting next to him. And who's this? Midnight asked, pointing to the blonde man. Oh, right. I'm Tashinori Yagi. Pleasure to meet you. The man offered his hand with Midnight, smiling and shaking it. Pleasure is all mine. Aizawa rolled his eyes at his friend, seeming to try and flirt with the man who didn't seem to get it. It wasn't long until the door was opened again, revealing Nedzu with a smile. Glad you all could make it. Now I'm sure you're wondering why you're all here. Some nodded their heads while Yamada and Kiyama voiced theirs. Yeah, what's the deal? I got a kid at home. Tashinori looked a little shocked, but said nothing. Correct. But there is another child you all know. They all looked shocked. Wait, what about him? I asked Midoriya, okay. Kiyama asked, looking a little panicked. Do not worry. He is quite all right. A little worse for wear, but doing fine. And you know this how? Aizawa asked. He hoped it wasn't because the kid was in trouble. Well, he's in the building, of course. Everyone stood up from their seats at that, and about to leave the room to look for him. Now hold on, please. He is quite tired, it seems, and recovery girl says you may visit in the morning. Got it? Of course, my agency will call to tell you when I arrive. Night, I said, handing a card before leaving the room casually. Yamada and Aizawa were sitting in the living room as Shinsuo slept in his room. They were watching a movie while going through paperwork for something on a case. Show you to honey. Aizawa looked up, already know what he was going to ask. As long as it's okay with Midoriya and Hitoshi, we'll adopt him, okay? Yamada smiled and nodded his head. Izuku didn't know how to feel about being inside the school. He had been avoiding the people now inside for a while now. He didn't think that he deserved to be there in general. When he was younger and had seen heroes everywhere without knowing what they were, he had told his mother that he wanted to be like them. He was now in the best hero school in the world, and it was because he had been running away from some of the best heroes in Japan. Okay, dearie, would you mind taking your shirt off for me? The old woman asked. Izuku hadn't spoken much since he was there. He nodded his head and slowly pulled the shirt over his head. He heard a slight gasp from the woman. "Is something wrong, ma'am?" he asked, now looking at her. "Where did you get all of these scars?" she asked almost sadly. He looked down to his chest, seeing a lot of markings. He then looked at his arms, seeing the same. "Oh, those. I'm not really sure." He shrugged his shoulders. She frowned but continued looking him over. After the woman looked him over, she left the room, leaving a water and some food. He looked at it for a moment before picking up the water and taking a few sips. It was silent for a moment until the door opened, making him jump a little and get off the bed. "Midoriya, good to see you're awake." He watched the principal again, and his colors. They still weren't threatening, but something always seemed off. "Hi, how long am I staying here?" He slowly began sitting back onto the bed. The mammal looked at him before he answered. "Oh, you wish to leave?" Izuku nodded his head, still watching the mammal. "I don't believe you can." Izuku was set on edge as soon as Nedzu said that. "Why?" He slowly began to stand from the bed. He could feel his own emotions growing and focusing on one point near his hand. "Well, as you know, we're pro-heroes and you're a child on the street. It is our job to make sure you are safe." Nedzu saw his tense posture and the slight glow to his left hand. "I'm safe on the street, sir, I promise." He hadn't calmed down even with the explanation. "But I'm afraid that you aren't, though. From what my people have seen, you're being chased by someone." Izuku tensed even more and was now in a low crouch fighting stance. "And if I'm here, then I put others in danger. So, when can I leave?" Izuku never liked sounding like he did now, full of anger. "I can assure you that you are safe here as well as everyone else in this building." Izuku let the light fade from his hand, slowly untensed. "We just wish to help young Midoriya. Now why don't you sleep? You seem tired." Izuku woke up the next day, confused for a moment, until he remembered what had happened the day before. He sat up, pushing the blanket off of him, and looked around the room. It was empty other than medical supplies scattered about the room. He stood up and walked around for a minute before he opened the door into the hallway. He was stepped out of the room and looked around a little confused until he saw Kiyama. "Hi, Miss Kiyama." The woman looked up, almost shocked to see him. "Well, good morning, Midoriya. I didn't think the principal was serious when he said you were here." She joked, making him smile a little. "Yep, I didn't expect to stay through the night, though." He whispered the last part, hoping she wouldn't hear, but she did. "Well, that's good. Do you want some breakfast?" she asked, pointing to the direction of the lunchroom. "I don't really want to bother anyone." "Don't worry, kid. Lunch Rush is more than happy to feed someone." She ruffled his hair, shocking him for a moment, but he soon smiled and followed Kiyama to where he assumed the food area was. "Have you ever gone to a school before?" Kiyama asked as they walked. "Nope. I usually went to the library to get information. I'm self-taught, but Kakin says that I'm advanced." He explained, still looking ahead, seeing a few new lights appear. "Really? That's pretty amazing, Midoriya. If you want, I can help tutor you." He looked at her with a bright smile, making her have to almost shield her eyes. "Really? That would be amazing." He jumped around a little, making her chuckle. "Of course, kid. I love teaching, though we can ask some of the others to help. They'd be more than happy to." The two had made it to the lunchroom to find it almost empty other than a few people that Izuku recognized. "Hi, Mr. Aizawa. Hi, Mr. Yamada." He yelled to them with a wave. Aizawa looked shocked while Yamada jumped up and ran over, picking Midoriya up into a hug. "Little listener, it's been so long." Izuku just smiled and felt himself melt into the touch almost. "It hasn't been that long, Mr. Yamada. Only a month." Izuku joked back as Yamada set him back onto the ground. "A month too long." Aizawa soon joined the group and ruffled Izuku's hair. "Good to see you're alive, kid." Izuku smiled and leaned into the touch again, making the other two adults eye at him. "You're like a little cat," Kiyama cried as she pulled Izuku into a hug, squeezing him to death. "Thanks." Aizawa simply watched how Izuku moved. It was obvious that the kid was touch-starved just by how he reacted to the hug and patting on his head, but there was something else, like underlying fear. Izuku hadn't eaten very much, but the others didn't seem to notice it. He followed them around almost like a lost puppy, but they didn't mind. He was good company to be around and would often add in points to their conversations. "So, Midoriya, any fun things about your quirk?" Yamada asked now, walking beside him. Oh, well, I can summon spirit animals, create weapons, and see emotions. He explained with a small smile on his face. That's cool. Can you show me my spirit animal? Kiyama asked. He nodded his head and focused on her colors, and then looked to the ground where a small panther laid at Kiyama's feet. That's awesome. Can I touch it? Izuku nodded his head with a smile as Kiyama leaned down and began petting the small animal. It looked to her before disappearing. Oh, oh, what about me? Yamada said with his hand in the air like one of their students. Izuku smiled and did the same as before, making a cockatoo appear on his shoulder. Wow, it looks just like you, Aizawa teased, though Yamada didn't care as he continued to look at the bird. Izuku looked to Aizawa, making a sleek black cat appear. Aizawa looked at it before it jumped onto Yamada and started playing with the bird. The group watched as the two played around each other before disappearing again. Demon, even your spirit animals like each other, Kiyama teased, poking the two as they blushed. Izuku chuckled and watched the three interact. Izuku would be lying if he said he didn't enjoy the three adults, but something still fell off when he was with people. He always liked being around people, but it always seemed safer when he wasn't. The past couple of months he had been around people the most, and they weren't even trying to kill him. The three had left not too long ago, though. He was just drawing while sitting on the hospital bed. They had said that they would be back later, but that Nedzu and Recovery Girl needed to talk to him in private. Midoriya, it's good to see you, Nedzu said as he walked into the room. Izuku jumped slightly, but smiled at the principal. It's good to see you too, Mr. Nedzu. But why did you need to see me in private? Izuku asked, a little worried. Without answering Izuku, he stepped to the side, revealing the detective, making Izuku smile wider. Hi, Mr. Detective. It's good to see you again. Naomasa smiled sadly, and Izuku saw the shift in colors to something almost sorrowful. What's wrong? He asked quickly as they both sat down, with Recovery Girl following suit. Can't hide anything from you, can I? Naomasa tried to joke, but Izuku didn't see much happiness in the colors. We just need to ask you some questions, honey. That's all. Izuku looked at Recovery Girl and didn't see any signs of a lie in her colors. He stared at all three of them before nodding his head. Let's start with something simple. What's your name? Izuku Midoriya. Okay, what's your quirk? It's an empath quirk. I haven't named it yet, I guess, but it lets me see people's emotions as colors around them, create spirit animals, and create weapons and tools. Naomasa nodded his head, writing it down on a small notepad. How long have you lived on the streets? Well, I've been on the streets all my life. Never really had a house, I guess. That seemed to shock the adults, but Nedzu didn't show it physically. Who are your parents? My mom's name was Inko, and my dad's was Hisashi. They were really nice and helped me a lot, though they never really told me anything about quirks or heroes. That was actually my friend Katsuki that told me about them. He sat up a little more, explaining everything before he paled a little. Oh no, I was supposed to meet up with him today. I hope he's okay. I'm sure. He'll understand. We'll see if he can stop by okay. Nedzu offered, making Izuku smile and nod his head. Next, do you know who's chasing you? Izuku's eyes widened a little, and he looked down to stare at his hands. I don't exactly know. They've just been chasing me for a while, and my mom and dad told me to never stop running. All I really know is that they want me for my quirk, I think. Naomasa nodded his head as he wrote down all the information on the notepad. Okay, this one will be a little more difficult to answer. How did you get all of your scars? Izuku flinched as he kept his eyes casted down. Some of them are from falling accidents or from running away. Izuku glared at his own hands as he answered, but the others happened when my mom and dad died. Naomasa felt bad for the follow-up question he had to ask. Can you tell us about that? Honey, time to get up. Izuku jolted awake and looked around, seeing his dad packing up anything they had. Did they find us, Mommy? He asked, already standing up and pulling on a jacket. Yes, I need you to take this. She handed him the bag his father had packed before giving him a few other things. And I need you to run out the back. Me and Daddy are going to distract them. Then we'll meet up with you at the meeting spot, okay? Izuku felt a few tears roll down his face. Midoriya? Naomasa asked. The kid had gone silent with tears rolling down his cheeks. His hands had begun glowing a soft blue color. Call Aizawa here. We might need him. Recovery girl nodded and went to the phone, calling the pro. The blue around his hands began to almost expand as he lifted them to the top of his head. He was running still. He didn't know why he was running anymore. He had heard their screams and seen the colors fade from his vision. He shouldn't wait at the meeting spot, but they wanted him there, right? So he wouldn't stop. Izuku began mumbling as Naomasa and Nedzu tried to comfort him, but the blue continued to expand. Midoriya, please calm down. We're here. Nedzu kept petting the boy on his head, but it only seemed to make him cry more before the blue took over the whole room. Everything in the room was tinted blue. Naomasa felt tears come to his eyes, making it hard to see. I'm here. What dash? Aizawa was cut off as he felt his eyes water, making him unable to use his quirk. What's going on? He asked as he choked slightly. I believe it's another aspect of Midoriya's quirk. We need to calm him down and pull him back. He kept running until he met at the spot. It was a dirty beach. They used to come here all the time when they thought they were safe. He didn't know how long he sat there. He didn't even notice that his quirk was going haywire or the footsteps and people approaching him. Not until they grabbed him and he couldn't scream. Stop! Izuku screamed as the color of the room shifted to a purple. Aizawa felt his heart rate spike and panic take over him. Luckily, though, the tears went away and he was able to cancel out Izuku's quirk. Just as he did, Izuku snapped out of it and started panting as he looked around the room in panic. Midoriya, it's okay. The boy looked down, seeing Nedzu sitting on one of his legs, still smiling. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened in Dash. Nedzu cut him off by patting him on the nose. Accidents happen. Now you mention a friend of yours? Why don't we contact them? He asked while still looking to Izuku, though the boy seemed confused and blinked away a few tears. But I just Dash. Don't worry. Now let's go to my office. The principal stood up, dragging the boy with him as he walked to his office. Nedzu understood what it was like to have an outburst. Izuku followed Nedzu to his office, but kept looking back behind him. If you're worried about something, you can talk with me. I may not be human, but I understand. Izuku jumped a little as he looked to Nedzu. It's just, I cause you guys so much trouble, and you're not mad? Nedzu let out a small chuckle. Of course not. You're only a child with a powerful quirk. There isn't anything wrong. They finally made it to the principal's office, where Nedzu sat down and started making tea. Izuku sat down on the couch, a little stiff as he looked around. So, Midoriya, would you like us to call your friend? Nedzu asked to put a small cup of tea in front of the boy. And no, I don't really want to bother him right now. Nedzu hummed as he took a sip from his tea. Is there anyone else then? Nedzu felt he already knew the answer. No, not really. There's Shinso, though, but I don't want to bother him either. Nedzu perked up a little at that. Ah, you mean Erase Your Heads and Present Mixed Child? Izuku nodded his head. I'm sure the two wouldn't mind bringing him here. The principal stood up before Izuku was able to stop him. He walked over to his desk and picked up the phone. Hello. Izuku could hear him as he spoke into the phone, seeing as it was on speaker. Hello, Erasure. I am aware your child is friends with Midoriya. Would you mind bringing him in? There was a pause. Well, they could hear him talking to someone else. Sure, Hisashi is getting him now. After that, they hung up, and Izuku looked awkward as he messed with his hands. It's okay to be nervous, Midoriya. The boy jumped a little as he met the animal's eyes. Actually, Principal, do you think you could call me Izuku? Nedzu felt realization hit. Survivor's guilt. Of course, Izuku. I assume you want the others to refer to you as such as well. Izuku nodded his head. Hey, Izuku, Shinso greeted as he walked into the principal's office. See, you got caught. The boy jokes, getting a small laugh from the other. Yeah, but how have you been, Shinso? It's been a while. He jumped onto the couch, sitting next to the boy. First, you can call me Itoshi if I call you Izuku. Izuku looked shocked, but nodded his head. And it's been pretty smooth, my teacher, actually. So, Izuku, the boy looked up from his sketchbook. You've been with us for almost 2 weeks now. I'm sorry. I can leave. I didn't mean to dash. Nedzu stopped Izuku from getting up. You misunderstand. I was wondering if you would like to stay with us permanently, as a ward of UA. Nedzu explained with a small cheer. Izuku stared at the principal for what seemed like forever, until small tears formed in his eyes. Are you lying? Izuku, you and I both know I'm not. It was a long pause again until Izuku smiled. Thank you. Izuku had been at the school for almost 3 years now. While he was there, he had been able to learn more things about his quirk, how to fight, and even a little about the people trying to chase him. He knew he was getting close to going into high school, and the heroes were getting more and more busy by the moment. Hey Izuku, you okay? Present Mike asked as he saw the teen sitting on one of the couches with a sketchbook. HM? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. You guys just seem really busy is all. He could see Present Mike's colors. Shifting from worry to sadness pretty quickly, no. Really, it's fine. You're all teachers, besides I'm starting high school soon, right? So it's fine, I promise. The colors shifted again. Okay, as long as you come to us when you need us. Izuku nodded his head. He looked at his phone, seeing that he had another job request. While he was now living at the school, he still liked to do work. He stood up and packed his stuff up before walking out of the school without people noticing. He walked into a cat cafe, seeing it empty at the moment minus someone behind the counter and someone sitting in the corner with blonde hair. Hi, Midoriya, right? Izuku nodded his head as he set his bag down, with some cats going straight to it. Good. So here's the idea we had, but you pretty much have free reign, so don't worry about it, okay? Of course, sir. And that's the wall, right? The man nodded, and Izuku went over to begin working. After almost an hour, he had everything mapped out and the colors picked. Wow, that's really cool. He jumped a little when the boy from before walked behind him. Oh, thanks. He smiled as he began looking through the colors he had on hand. This one was going to be all hand-painted. Is this your job? You only look around my age. Yeah, I started doing this when I was younger. I like doing it. That's super cool, man. My name's Kaminari Denki. Izuku smiled and shook his outstretched hand with a small laugh. Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Izuku. The other teens seemed shocked but looked happy. Then you can call me Denki. Most people my age don't really like me because I talk too much and can be annoying. I also ramble a lot too, and I think my quirk scares them a lot. Sorry. Izuku saw his colors shift to a more sad and scared tone. No. It's fine, really. You seem fun. Plus, when I'm working, I usually do it in silence. So, go ahead. Really? Well, At that point, it turned into Denki talking about his week, what he likes to do, what his family was like, his quirk, and everything in between. And done. Well, for today. Izuku took a step back and looked at the picture. It was nighttime with a single tree with a cat sitting on it. There weren't any details yet, but it looked good. Whoa, that's amazing. You're really good, Izuku. Izuku blushed a little and rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks, Denki. Do you want to exchange phone numbers? Denki looked at him for a moment before it clicked. Oh, yeah, man, totally. They switched phones, putting the other number in it before putting it back. Thanks for hanging out today. I gotta go, though. Izuku waved by as Denki left the building while he began packing up. Welcome back, Izuku. How was your day? Nedzu asked as Izuku walked back into the building. It was good. I made a friend today. Nedzu smiled at Izuku's excitedness. That's fantastic, Izuku. Now let's talk about high school. Are you sure about this? You don't. You have to just because you live here. Hisashi explained since it was his day with Izuku. I'm sure. Wait. Look. Izuku ran over to a display and pointed it out to Hisashi, who looked starstruck. We have to get them. Oh, totally. They both picked one up along with one for Shinso and ran to the cash register. What are you wearing? Aizawa yelled with a blush as he looked at the three standing in front of him. What are you talking about, Dad? Shinso asked with a smirk, making Aizawa glare more. I hate every single one of you. Aizawa groaned as he looked at all of them. The three of them, of course, found Eraserhead hoodies and now wouldn't take them off. Though he was lying if he said he didn't think it was sweet. Izuku sat in front of the principal, who looked serious as ever, but still with a smile. Now, Izuku, do you wish to take the recommendation route or the normal exam? Izuku had already made up his mind. I want to do this on my own. The principal wasn't shocked. Everyone here has been so nice and caring, and you're all my family. But I want to show everyone I could do this on my own. That's how Izuku found himself in a big auditorium sitting next to Katsuki and Shinso on the other side of him. Sir, what about the fourth villain? One of the contestants yelled. Maybe if he let Papa finish. Man, but didn't need to interrupt. Izuku rolled his eyes at his friends. Calm down. Dad Mike has it covered. The two looked at him and shrugged their shoulders. Well examined. That brings me to a little surprise. The fourth one is actually worth 0 points. So it's best not to waste your time on it. He stood near the back of the group and looked at everyone nervously, even though he was getting used to other people with the help of Shinso, Denki, Katsuki, Mirio, Tamaki, and Nijire. He was still nervous in bigger groups of people. That guy looked ready to pass out. More points for us then. Izuku glared at the ground. He knew he could be nervous, but he was still capable of being strong. Go! Hearing that, Izuku ran forward past everyone. That guy's got it. There are no countdowns in real life. So go. Go. Go! Izuku was glad about the small gap he had between everyone. He created a small yellow knife as he began to cut through some robots. The electricity was able to overpower the robots and make them power down. He kept going around trying to destroy robots until he heard someone scream. He ran over and saw Ruble falling onto a group of people. He ran over while making a purple shield appear and covered them so nothing hit them. Once the Ruble stopped, he turned to the group. Are you all okay? He recognized Denki quickly with the group. Izuku. That was so cool. Thanks for the save. Izuku nodded as the blonde left and went to fight more robots. He looked around seeing more people needing help and didn't hesitate to lose points to save them. He was helping up one of the other examinees again when there was a loud rumble that shook everyone, even making some people fall even. They all looked around as some people began running away back to the front. He saw Denki run by and stopped him. What's happening? The blonde looked terrified. It's the 0-point dash. Denki was cut off as the giant robot appeared around the corner and began destroying a building. We need to dash. Izuku was about to leave when he heard someone screaming. He turned and saw a girl trapped under rubble with the 0-pointer coming fast. Denki, wait. There's a girl trapped there. Come help me. The blonde seemed scared, through the color though he knew he was, but nodded anyway. Right. The two ran forward, arriving in front of the girl. I'm going to lift this up. You get her out okay? Denki nodded as Izuku began to lift up the Ruble, giving them enough room to move her out of the way. Get her out of here. There wasn't much time as the robot locked onto them. Izuku glared before looking around for something. He saw a pole over near the edge and grabbed onto it before using it to fling himself up to the robot. Meeting its eyes, he summons the small knives of fire, ice, earth, and lightning one. He throws them with them, all hitting it dead on. After a second, they all seem to burst as the robot explodes. He begins to fall to the ground. He summons another shield with this one being more round and uses it to cushion the fall before going out into a roll. After the test, Izuku was invited to go over to Katsuki's house for dinner. You have all your stuff back in your room, right? Kiyama asked, looking through files. Yep. Izuku called as he began to put his shoes on before he left. Okay, have fun, kid. Izuku was now standing at the door, a little nervous as he knocked. He heard yelling on the other side and jumped a little as the door was thrown open. Hello, you must be Midoriya. A woman with blonde hair greeted as she let Izuku in. Yes, nice to meet you. He could tell by hair color that she was nice, only a little loud. Oh, hello, Midoriya. I'm Masaru, Katsuki's father. Izuku smiled and shook the man's hand. And I'm Itsuki. She turned to the stairs. Get down here, brat. Your friend's here. Izuku smiled almost fondly while Masaru's colors changed to worry. Sorry about the yelling, Midoriya. Izuku turned to the man and shook his head. Don't worry about it, please. It's very interesting, honestly. That seemed to calm the other down as he led him to the living room. Here, dinner will be done soon, so you can wait here if you want. Izuku nodded as he sat down on the couch, though he could hear the stomping of feet running down the stairs. Deku, he smiled as his friend jumped onto the couch next to him. Hi, Kakin. How'd you do during the exam? Izuku wasn't quite sure when the nicknames became a thing, or where they really came from, but here we are. Amazing as always. Those extras didn't stand a chance against me. Izuku smiled as his friend began to rant about everything he did and how stupid the other people were. Katsuki, Midoriya, dinner's ready. Izuku perked up while Katsuki stopped talking. coming. Izuku followed after the blonde as they all sat down at the dinner table. They all began to eat in silence before Mitsuki started asking questions. So Midoriya, how long have you and Katsuki known each other? Izuku had to think about it, since it had been a while. I think we met when we were around 8. Katsuki nodded in conformation as Izuku looked at him. Yeah, it was at that F park you were drawing, remember? Izuku smiled at the memory and nodded. Wow, I'm surprised we haven't heard about you before. Masaru pointed out, though both boys seemed confused. The F you talking about? I've talked about him. Katsuki defended. Hell, he had told them about the meeting before they had to take the test. No, you haven't, brat. All you talk about is Deku. Izuku laughed a little, especially when the colors seemed to swch and dance a lot more. That's what Kakin calls me. Izuku explained with a small smile. Ah, you let him call you Kakin, Mitsuki teased, making her son explode. Izuku had left the Bakuga residence and was walking back to UA when he felt someone near him. He opened the range a little more and tried to pinpoint the emotion. It seemed close to hate and annoyance, but the colors seemed black almost. He knew who it was and quickly picked up his pace, going into a run and turning down alleys. The person was still following him, though, as he ran. He turned another corner and almost ran into someone. Sorry, Dash. Izuku was cut off as he recognized Night Eye. Izuku, what are you doing out this late? I thought you were with Midnight. He was about to answer when he realized the person would be catching up again. He grabbed on a Night Eye and dragged him into an alley out of sight until the person ran past them. Sorry, sir, I was walking back from Kakin's, and then I felt someone behind me, so I started running. Then they started running, and then I ran into you, Dash. Night, I put a hand on his shoulder. You're fine, Izuku. I'll walk you back to Midnight's. Izuku took a few breaths and nodded his head as they began walking back to Midnight's. Izuku, thank God you're okay. I was worried when I hadn't heard of you. Thanks, Night Eye. She pulled the teenager into a bone-crushing hug. It's no issue, Midnight. Have a good night. They both said goodbye while Kiyama made sure Izuku was okay. Are you sure you're okay? It has been a while since someone's chased you. Izuku nodded his head. I'm fine, Mom. He hugged her, though she was a little shocked and didn't hug right back. I'm now Izuku's favorite, Kiyama declared as she barged into the office, making the others jump a little. Lies, Aizawa said, not even looking up from his computer. Oh yeah? Will he call me Mom? A lot of the teachers looked almost offended. That's right. Read it and weep beaches. Not long after Izuku walked in, with Nedzu walking next to him. Izuku. The teen looked up a little confused. How come you called Kiyama Mom, but you won't call me Dad? Izuku looked a little confused. What are you talking about? I've called you Dad before. Well, it was more of Dad Mike, but I've still called you it. He explained before looking at some of the other staff. You all realize I've called you all variations of Mom, Dad, Aunt, and Uncle, right? He saw the colors shift again and laughed a little. Wait, what do you call Nedza then? Snipe asked, a little curious. Well, he's the principal, so he's kind of like a grandpa, right? So I call him Popa. All of the staff looked at Nedzu, who hadn't changed his expression. I have suddenly remembered a meeting. The principal walked out before the staff started laughing, while Izuku looked worried. Did I do something wrong? Izuku asked, walking up to Aizawa, who wasn't laughing as hard. No, kid, he's just a little flustered. Izuku nodded before joining in on the laughing. Since Izuku was always surrounded by the pros that worked at UA, he was told as soon as the teachers knew that he had gotten into 1A. Really? Izuku asked excitedly, jumping up and down in front of the staff. Yep, you did so good. President Mike picked up Izuku and spun him around. Our little baby's all grown up. Midnight declared with tears in her eyes as she stole the teen back. Okay, put the kid down before you drop him. Aizawa joked from his seat. Good morning, everyone. Everyone turned to Nedzu. I would like you all to meet our new teacher for Foundational Heroes Study. There was a moment before All Might burst through the door. I am here. Everyone jumped a little, but looked shocked to see All Might. Izuku gasped and smiled. The heroes expected the usual from civilians, which was to be a fanboy. Hi, Mr. Yagi. I didn't know you were a teacher. They also forgot Izuku was an empath that could tell heroes apart from civilians. A young Midoriya. I wasn't aware you were here. Izuku immediately smiled. Yep, I'm also a student here now. I got into 1A. All Might smiled and patted the boy on the head. That's fantastic, young Midoriya. The staff was still a little shocked, but soon shrugged it off. Well, All Might will be joining our staff. You all have been made aware of his condition, and I assume Izuku knows of it too. Izuku smiled and nodded as All Might began to deflate. It was officially the first day of school for them, and Izuku was a little nervous. He hoped that Denki, Shinso, and Katsuki had all gotten into the same class as him. He walked up to the door and pushed it open, already hearing people talk. It's disrespectful to put your feet on the desk. He jumped a little, seeing the guy from before yelling at Katsuki. Huh? You think you're better than me? Izuku walked in and saw Shinso sitting behind where his assigned seat was and smiled. He walked over to his seat and sat down, getting his two friends' attention. Hey Izuku/Deku. Hi Itoshi. Hi Kaken. I'm glad we're all in the same class. The two nodded their head in agreement. He was about to say more when the guy from before stood in front of him. Hello. My name is Idatenya. I'm from Sumai Academy. Katsuki glared as he leaned onto Izuku's desk. Wow. Were you born with a stick up your butt, or was it put there? Shinso laughed a little, while Izuku nudged his friends. Hey, Izuku. Good to see you got in. Denki interrupted, walking over to them. Who's this? Shinso asked. Sup? Name's Kaminari Denki. I'm a friend of Izuku's. Both the other boys quirked an eyebrow. Whoa, you're the guys that saved me from the zero-pointer. My name is Uraraka. The girl from before declared, pointing at the two. Hi, Midoriya, Izuku. Name's Kaminari. Shinso. Bakugu F. Katsuki. Izuku rolled his eyes at his friend. If you're here to make friends, then you can leave. Everyone jumped except Izuku, who smiled. It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down. Put these on and meet me outside. Everyone stood outside, waiting for the teacher to explain what they were doing. Today we'll be doing a quirk assessment test. A lot of people gaspies. But what about the orientation? Uraraka asked. You don't have time for that. If you're going to be heroes, you can't waste time. He turned to Katsuki. Bakugu. How long was your ball throw in junior high? About 67 meters. Aizawa tossed him a ball and pointed to a circle. Try with your quirk. The teen smirked as he caught the ball and went to the circle. He threw the ball while using his quirk, and everyone watched as it flew far. This is what it means to go beyond plus ultra. Aizawa showed them the number as some people gasped. Whoa, this is going to be awesome. Izuku looked over to the person who said that and saw a girl with pink skin cheering. Awesome. Fine then. Whoever gets the lowest score will be expelled. Everyone seemed to panic at that. Izuku looked at his colors and could tell he wasn't lying. What? You can't do that. It's the first day. Aizawa turned to them, looking exhausted. Actually, I can. The school's teaching is different and allows me to teach and act however I see fit. Plus ultra. Izuku could feel the panic from everyone else slowly seeping into him. He was able to push it back enough that it didn't affect him, but it was still a little annoying. For all the tests, he often could use his quirk, but that didn't mean he did bad. When they did the stamina test, Izuku was one of the last people. He actually was the last person. He was used to having to run in more difficult situations, so when it was left to him and the Yaoyorozu girl Aizawa stopped them. When it came to the ball throw, though, he had to get creative. He threw the ball slightly in front of him and up in the air before summoning an air knife and throwing it into the ball. Once he hit the ball, it went faster and further. The class was a little surprised at the number, since it was the second best, only being beaten by Uraraka. Once everything was over, Aizawa showed them the rankings. Katsuki had gotten 3rd, Izuku got 5th, Denki got 15th, and Shinso got 16th. Izuku saw it was Hagakura that go last, and he saw the colors of someone sink to the ground. Some of the girls went to comfort her, but Izuku saw a shift in Aizawa's colors. I was lying, by the way. No one is being expelled. I said that to get the best out of all of you. After school, Izuku sat in the teacher's lounge on the couch while the teachers finished up their work for the day. Hey, Dad. Aizawa turned around and looked at Izuku. Why did you lie about not actually expelling anyone? Aizawa's eyes widened since he had forgotten Izuku could tell when people lied. You all showed potential. If I didn't think you did, then someone would be gone. Hey, Midoriya. Izuku looked up to see Uraraka and Ida, waving him over to a lunch table. "Hey, what's up?" Izuku asked as he sat down at the table. "Nothing really. We just wanted to make friends, and you seem really cool. Like when you destroyed that zero-pointer." Uraraka cheered with a fist in the air. Shinso sat down next to Izuku without saying anything. "It is true. It was quite impressive." Izuku blushed a little at the compliments. "Thanks, guys, but what do you think we're going to do for our Foundational Heroes class?" The two thought about it for a second. "Do we even know who the teacher is?" Shinso asked, quirking an eyebrow at Izuku. "You're right. It might be Aizawa-sensei again." Ida pointed out. "I hope not. He kind of scares me." Shinso and Izuku shared a look. "Aizawa isn't that scary if you've seen him interact with his husband and cats. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person." Most of the class gasped as All Might came into the room in his hero costume. "Holy CRP, it's All Might." "Whoa." All Might walked to the front of the class with a smile. "Hello. I am your Foundational Hero Studies teacher." He hit a button, making 20 cases appear. "Go put these on and meet at Ground Beta." Izuku opened his case and found a simple-looking outfit. It had black cargo pants, a dark green shirt with black lines, a black leather jacket with a hood, black gloves, a utility belt with first aid supplies, and his usual red shoes. When he walked out, he gasped at his friends' hero outfits. "Wow, you guys look so cool." Katsuki, Shinso, and Denki turned with their own versions of smiles. Bakugo and Kaminari hero outfits are the same, while Shinso looked similar to a black hoodie with jeans along with a capture weapon and his voice thingy. "Thanks, man. You look awesome." Denki commented, looking the boy up and down. "Thanks." Izuku turned and saw Uraraka and Ida. "Wow, you guys look amazing." The two turned to him, and Uraraka smiled. Izuku could tell Ida was happy even though he couldn't see the boy's face. "Thanks, though they made it a little more tight than I wanted," Uraraka pointed out, lifting some of the fabric on her arm. "Thank you, Midoriya." The class turned to All Might as he began talking. "Well, you all look the part of heroes. Let's begin, shall we? Today you'll be put into teams of 2. One will act as the hero team, while the other will be the villain team. The villain team will enter the building to hide a fake bomb. Then after 10 minutes, the hero team will enter and try to find the bomb. If you're caught, then you're out. The round ends when either the heroes touch the bomb or time runs out, and the villains win." The class exploded with questions. Is there the threat of expulsion again? How will teams be picked? How does my cape look? Everyone please quiet down. My quirk isn't super hearing. The hero and villain teams will be picked by a lottery. All Might explained. Once teams have been decided, they all waited to see who was going first. First is Team D as villains and Team A as heroes. Uraraka and Izuku looked at each other with smirks before Izuku smirked to Katsuki, who smiled wildly. "Any ideas?" Uraraka asked as Izuku looked the building up. He could already see that they were on the top floor. All right, I have an empath quirk that allows me to see emotions as colors, create weapons with effects, and summon spirit animals, so I can see where they are right now." He explained, still looking at the two. The colors shifted, and he could tell they weren't exactly getting along. "Really? That's so cool." He turned to her and smiled. "They're going to separate. Kakin will end up coming for us alone. I'll distract him while you run upstairs and try to hit the bomb without being noticed. If he spots you, tell me, and I'll either get to you by taking down Kakin, or we'll figure something else out." Uraraka looked in amazement as Izuku explained the plan. "Right, let's do this." Once they were told, they entered the building and walked calmly. Kakin is in the middle of the building right now. Ida is still up top. Uraraka nodded. They weren't sneaking since they didn't have to worry about where the others were. "Okay, he's on this floor now. Go over there. The stairs will take you straight up to Ida. Go." He whispered this time. Uraraka nodded her head and took down one of the halls as Izuku stared to where Katsuki was walking at the moment through a wall. "Wow, it looks like he knows where Bakugo is," Mina pointed out as they all watched the screen. Some of the class turned to Shinso and Kaminari. He can see where Bakugo is walking right now. "Yep, Izuku here has an empath quirk. If he tried hard enough, he could probably see us here. One more turn, and the two would be in front of each other." Izuku crouched low and created a small shield before jumping out at the other. Just like he thought, Katsuki created an explosion that Izuku was able to shield himself from. Always full of surprises, Deku. Izuku smiled before dodging another blast. Of course, Kaken. Can't have you beating me after all. He created a white knife and cut through another explosion, though it was a distraction as Katsuki appeared above him, ready to fire again. Izuku rolled to the side as Katsuki missed him by only a few inches. The two stood in front of each other and took a few breaths before they both charged at each other. Izuku grabbed Katsuki's arm and flipped him over his shoulder while Katsuki sent an explosion. They smiled at each other as Izuku stood in a fighting position with no weapons out yet. Katsuki smirked and lifted one of his hands. You know the gauntlets aren't only for show. Izuku's eyes widened as a pin appeared. They actually store up my sweat, so I can create larger explosions. Katsuki aimed the gauntlet at Izuku with his finger on the pin ready to pull. Young Bakuga, don't. That could kill him. They both heard All Might yell over the comms. Not if he dodges. Katsuki pulled the pin, sending a fire of explosions. Izuku didn't move, though, as he smiled. He created two knives and stood still as it hit him. Midoriya, can you hear me? The class stood in shock and worry as the smoke slowly began to disappear. Katsuki only smirked as he saw the other still standing there. The only difference was he had the knives like he just slashed someone. That was really cool, Kaken. He dashed forward and punched the other. Too bad I can cut through it, though. The two began fighting again until Izuku slammed down a blue knife, making water appear before heating it and creating steam so he could get away. Midoriya, Ida spotted me. I can't do anything. Izuku looked up and saw where they were. Okay, Uraraka, hold on to one of the pillars and get ready to go for the bomb. She hummed as he made it to one of the floors under them. He stood there as Katsuki ran into the room. Nice tricks, Deku. The two began fighting again, but this time it was hand-to-hand. Izuku smirked as he clicked the button and made the pin on the other gauntlet appear before forcing the other's hand up. Thanks, Kaken. He pulled the pin, making it destroy the floors and create a hole in the building. He heard a buzzing in his ear as he tried to blink. Katsuki used it to his advantage and punched the other, sending him back a little. DM in, Deku. War guy next time. Katsuki yelled, ready to fight again, at least until it was called. Hero team wins. He glared and sighed as Izuku smiled, though he stopped for a second before seeing Katsuki a little upset. You know, Kaken, you almost had me with the first shot. It was really cool. He saw the colors turn brighter as the blonde scoffed. Of course I did. If we had gone again, I would have beaten you this time. The two laughed a little as they made their way back down to the observation room. Fantastic first round, you four. Now who can tell me who the MVP was? All Might asked, turning to the class. Momo raised her hand and was called. It would have to be Midoriya. He was able to guide and assist his partner, even though they had separated. He was also able to distract his opponent and even use his own tactics against him. All Might nodded and began getting ready for the next round. Katsuki and Izuku stood next to each other talking about the other's fighting style until Katsuki accidentally brushed against Izuku's right arm. Ow! He jumped a little and held his arm before grunting again and letting it go. Did you hurt yourself, dumbass? Katsuki asked, grabbing the arm but avoiding the burnt fabric so it did hit you. Izuku saw the colors shift to guilt. It's fine, Kaken. I accidentally did it when I forced your arm up. It was my fault for being reckless. He tried to reason while waving his other arm. I'm taking you to Recovery Girl first. Hey, eyebags. Shinso turned to the pair with a quirked eyebrow. I'm taking Deku to Recovery Girl. He got hurt like an idiot. Shinso sighed. Of course he did. I'll tell All Might where you guys are going. I'm still here, you know. They had gone through their first week smoothly for the most part, minus the small injury Izuku got from fighting Katsuki. I wasn't that hurt, it was just a small burn. Izuku tried to reason Aizawa. I don't care, try not to get hurt like that again. Izuku nodded his head with a small pout, making Aizawa sigh. I'm not mad, okay? Just be careful. Izuku smiled and hugged the other. Of course, Dad. Kaken, wait up. Izuku yelled to the blonde, who did actually stop. Stop being so slow then, Deku. Izuku chuckled as he finally caught up with him, and Shinso. Oh, cool it, Lava Girl. He nudged the blonde. Oh, you want to go eye bags? Izuku and Shinso laughed at him for a moment. Hey, no fighting. Besides, we might be late. Izuku scolded as he playfully hit them both. As they got to the gates of UA, they paused, seeing a large group of reporters. What the F? Katsuki whispered as the reporters noticed them. Can you tell us about All Might as a teacher? How has this year been with All Might as a teacher? What does All Might teach? Do you think he's qualified? The three were swarmed by the reporters. Back the F up, Katsuki yelled, shoving through them with the other two following. It was pretty obvious to Katsuki and Shinso that Izuku was a little overwhelmed, so they forced their way to the gates where Present Mike and Aizawa were. You three okay? Shinso nodded his head, while Katsuki grunted. I'm okay, just a little overwhelmed is all. Aizawa nodded, letting them through. Good morning, Midoriya. Uraraka called as the three entered. Hi, Uraraka. Hi, Ida. Izuku and Shinso walked over to them, while Katsuki was swarmed by some of the others. It's good to see you three weren't late. Ida scolded the two present. I know, Ida, it was one time. Everyone in your seats, and quiet down so class can start. Everyone quickly got into their seats as Aizawa walked to the front. Today, we'll be choosing class president. You all decide who and how. I don't care, just wake me up when you're done. As soon as he laid down in his sleeping bag, people started shouting. Choose me. No, choose me. I think I'd be the best. I didn't think this many people would want to be in charge. Shinso commented, watch everyone. Yeah, even Kaken wants to. Izuku giggled as the blonde glared at him. Everyone quiet down. I believe the best way to choose would be a voting system. Izuku had to admit it was a good idea, though he wanted to laugh a little since even Ida's hand was raised. How do we know people just won't vote for themselves? Someone asked. Izuku was pretty sure his name was Kirishima. We won't, so whoever has the most votes should be it. The class murmured agreements. Once everyone had decided, the votes were tallied up, and to his surprise, Izuku was voted class president, with Yaoyorozu being vice president. Midoriya, Uruzu, please come to the front. The two walked up and shook hands with a smile. These are your class's president and vice president. Now go sit down. The two went back to their seats. Congrats, Midoriya. Uraraka cheered as they all went to lunch. Thanks, Uraraka, but I don't think I was really the best choice. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. I disagree, Midoriya. You're the best choice I could think of. Ida explained as they all sat down. Really? Thanks, Ida. I actually voted for you since you seemed the most excited to do it, and you tend to have a level head. Thank you, Midoriya, but you deserve it. Izuku smiled as they all began eating peacefully, though that didn't last long as an alarm went off, causing everyone to panic. Izuku flinched a little, feeling overwhelmed again. What's that alarm? Uraraka yelled as people began running. It's an intruder alarm. We need to go to the safety areas. A third year yelled before running with a group of students. We need to go, Shinso yelled as the group all began following the crowd. Izuku was having trouble getting through as he was shoved against the glass with Ida. It's just the press, Izuku whispered before turning to Ida. Ida, cup your hands like this and give me a boost. Ida nodded and did as he was told. Izuku grabbed onto one of the signs. Everyone stop. Everyone froze. It's just the press. Calm down before someone gets hurt and walk. Don't run. Once everyone seemed to calm down, he let go and landed on the ground. Quickly finding his friends and class, they all walked to the area and wanted for the teachers. Izuku was excited. Aizawa had told him about a surprise today, and he was super excited about it. And when he told the class, he was even more excited about it. Today we'll be going somewhere. Put your costumes on and meet me at the front of the school and get on the bus. The class all seemed excited as they all stood up going to change. What do you guys think it is? Izuku asked, bouncing as they walked. Aren't you excited? Shinso teased as they walked. Of course I am. We could be doing anything. We're even putting on our hero outfits. What if it's more battle training? His friend seemed a little shocked at how excited he was, except for the two that knew he wasn't used to this kind of stuff. Wow, you're really excited. Uraraka cheered out. It's good to see someone as excited as I am for their education. Izuku smiled brighter, reminding the group of the sun. They were all sitting on the bus, now talking excitedly to each other. Midora, Izuku smiled at Tsu. I'm normally blunt, so I was wondering about your quirk. What is it exactly? Oh, it's an empath-type quirk. That's what I read, though, so I'm not really sure. I can create weapons and stuff from emotions, though. And all the colors have different effects, like yellow means lightning, green means plants, that kind of thing. Oh, I can also kind of talk to plants and animals. Since they're alive, I can read their emotions. The class seemed surprised. Wow, Midoriya, you have such a cool quirk. Izuku saw his colors go a little dim and towards blue. I can only harden parts of my body. Izuku gasped with a smile. Really? That's so cool. You could protect and save so many people. He saw the colors change lighter again, as the other boys seemed happier. Thanks, Midoriya. He smiled as they dipped into more conversations until they arrived. Hello, students, and welcome to the USJ, which stands for Dash. Izuku zoned out a little. He was distracted by everything around him. Though he had heard 13 talk about this place before, so already knew everything. He was still bouncing on his heels as he looked around, at least until he thought he saw something. He stopped pouncing and looked past Aizawa. The colors in the middle were flickering in and out. He squinted and focused his radar to those specific colors. He stood a little ways from the group and quietly walked closer, trying to get a better look. He jumped a little when he felt someone touch his shoulder. Izuku? What is it? He heard Aizawa whisper. The colors stopped flickering long enough for Izuku to realize something. Those were the people chasing him. He turned to Aizawa with wide eyes. We need to leave. Just as he yelled that a portal opened and people began stepping out. Those are villains. 13, get them out of here. Aizawa shouted as he jumped into the large group, beginning to take them down. Everyone, run back to the bus. The group all turned and followed after 13, getting close to the entrance until a large purple mist appeared, stopping them. We can't have you leave now, can we? They all took a step back. Izuku quietly created a white sword. He wasn't used to making one, but it would help. We were told All Might would be here, but he doesn't seem to be. Some of the people took a step back while 13 stepped closer. No issue. We'll just have to kill a few of you to get his attention. Not if I can help it. 13 activated their quirk and began sucking in the mist to leave. Some seemed frozen while Izuku wasn't. Kirishima, Shoji, Sato, help me get the door open. The three snapped out of. As they pulled the door apart, though they didn't have much time as the mist seemed to be fighting back, Izuku grunted as he carried his sword and ran at the mist, cutting it and making it let go of its hold on 13. You seem familiar. Izuku ignored it as he forced the mist back with another swing of his sword. Ida, run to the school and get help. Midoriya, I can't just dash. Izuku pushed the mist back and slid before he finally stopped himself in front of Ida and the others. You're not leaving us. You're getting help. Now, be a hero and go. He didn't see Ida leave as he created a yellow dagger and threw it at the mist, only for it to dodge. A shame one of you got free. No matter, it'll be too late for that. The mist spread out over the students, including Izuku. They all screamed as they fell through it. I'm sure Shigaraki will be pleased to see you, though. Izuku was teleported to the center where he saw Aizawa fighting. He was about to join when he heard laughing behind him. Izuku, it's been long. How are your parents? He spun around quickly to face the man. He gritted his teeth as the man smiled at him. You're hard to find, you know? I'm just happy we got so lucky to see you here. Izuku growled as he created a white staff. Why are you here? He asked, taking a small step back. The man just smiled more. Well, we came here to kill All Might, and with you here, we might as well take you too. Shigaraki sprung forward with an outstretched hand. Izuku used the staff to smash the other's arm into the ground, forcing his body down. Izuku used the opening to create more daggers and stick him to the ground. He jumped back and swung the staff, making one of the thugs fall. He began fighting the thugs near him, even though he was outnumbered. He switched his staff to a shield so he could block and use his open arm and legs to attack, at least until someone broke through the shield and hit him across the face. Been wanting to do that since we were forced to chase after you. Izuku stood up and whipped some of the BLD from his nose and lip. He glared at the thug as his shield disappeared and changed to gauntlets. "That was rude, sir." He lunged forward and punched the man in the stomach before kneeing him in the face and slamming him into the ground, knocked out. "But don't worry. I don't hold grudges for long." He turned to the other thugs, who seemed all frozen in shock. "Who wants next?" He didn't get them a chance to answer as he sprung forward to fight. He didn't know how long he had been fighting, but it felt like forever. His focus and control over his weapons was slipping. He didn't notice, though, until he saw Shigaraki standing and staring at Aizawa. He punched down his last guy and looked carefully at the situation. When Shigaraki sprang forward, Izuku was faster and placed himself between the two with a shield. The other's quirk broke, though, and grabbed onto Izuku's wrist, who hissed in pain before yanking down and smashing the other's face to the ground, forcing him to let go. "Kid, you okay back there?" Aizawa asked as he took down more thugs that just seemed to keep appearing. Izuku looked at his bleeding wrist. If he wasn't careful, he could bleed out. He pulled out some of his supplies and wrapped the arm as best he could before responding. "I'm okay, Dad, are you?" Aizawa hummed. Izuku stood back up and saw some of his class fighting off the others. "I'm tired of this." Izuku whipped around, seeing blood trickle down Shigaraki's face, bring out the Nomu. He froze. Of course he knew what Nomu was. A large bird creature stepped out of portal. Nomu destroyed them. Izuku's eyes widened as the creature lunged at them. "Watch out!" Izuku shouted before pushing Aizawa away as the creature landed and slammed him into the ground. He felt his head swim. The creature picked him up before throwing him into the stairs and creating a dent. "Kid." Aizawa didn't get much luck either as Noma focused on him now. Izuku." He bolted up and started panting, his vision slightly foggy. "Thank God. I thought you were dead." He recognized Denki's voice. "No, I'm okay. What about you guys?" The group looked shocked. "We're fine, but Izuku didn't let them finish as he saw something and sprinted down the stairs as fast as he could. He summoned the white pole again and created small platforms to run up before jumping. He swung down, knocking Shigaraki down and away from Tsu. He pulled the three out of the water before throwing Shigaraki in and putting a small amount of electricity through it. Not enough to make the other pass out, though. "Izuku, what happened?" Shinso asked, though Izuku ignored him and kept his eyes on the villain. "Wow, you're an amazing fighter, Izuku. Too bad he isn't." Izuku's eyes widened as he turned and saw Aizawa bloodied and pinned by Nomu. He grunted and took off again as the others ran up the stairs. He created lighting, fire, and ice daggers before throwing them at the Nomu, making it scream and get up and away from Aizawa. He crouched over Aizawa like a cornered animal before picking up the hero and running up the stairs and placing him with the others up there. He was about to run off when someone grabbed his wrist. He looked down and saw Aizawa semi-conscious. "Don't." He calmed down slightly and smiled, slowly taking the hand into one of his own. "I'm sorry." He let the hand go before running off and using small platforms again to get higher. He saw Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima off near the edge. Luckily, the villains hadn't noticed, and Izuku planned on keeping it that way. At the last one, he dropped and turned, aiming a kick at Shigaraki, who grabbed his leg for a moment before letting go from the force of the kick. Nomu appeared behind him and punched him. Though he weakened the blow with a shield, it still had some force behind it. He twisted and flipped a few times before sliding on his feet and ending near where the three were. He panted and barely looked up at the others' shocked faces. "I am here." When All Might finally arrived, Izuku felt like passing out. He almost did as Bakugo caught him and held him up. "Take it easy, Deku," he scolded. Izuku groaned slightly at the now obvious pain from all of his injuries. "Bakugo's right. You need to stop Midoriya." He leaned into Bakugo, trying to catch his breath. "Sorry, Kakin, Kirishima, Todoroki, I'll try to stop." He wheezed out, though that didn't last long as he saw Shigaraki charging. Just not yet. He broke from the other's hold and sprinted forward before turning and kicking the other down. He summoned the gauntlets again before punching the other and sending him back. The others soon became busy dealing with helping All Might and keeping the mist busy. "Do I finally have you all to myself, Izuku? I miss this, you know." Shigaraki yelled as he lunged forward. Izuku dodged before punching him in the back and forcing him down and out. He saw ice freeze the other and Nomu. He turned and smiled at Todoroki before running over. Thank you. He breathed out, finally able to stop again. He almost fell until someone caught him again and pulled him closer to their body. He opened his eyes and blinked away some of the fog to see Todoroki holding him. Sorry. It's no issue. He smiled again and turned just in time to see All Might punch the Nomu out of the USJ and into the sky. Helps arrive. Todoroki spoke monotone, though Izuku could see the calm wash over the other. Right? Izuku stepped away and stood on his own and saw Kirishima and Bakugo running back to them. So it wasn't a surprise when a portal in hand caught him off guard and landed on his chest. In his small moment of panic, it took a good amount of clothing and skin with it before Izuku grabbed onto the wrist and dragged it through the portal before throwing Shigaraki through another one as they made their escape. Deku was the last thing he heard before he passed out. Hey, Mommy. Inko looked down at her son. Why do we run? She set down her cup before picking Izuku up. She carted her hand through his hair. Some people are after us because they want your father. He looked at her confused. He's very smart. We go with him because they want to try and use us against him, so we help him by staying with him. But Mommy, why are they after me? The scene changed to a dark room. He was chained to a wall, and Shigaraki stood in front of him. You're so important. If only you worked with us, your quirk could be so powerful. You could be powerful. Izuku fought against the chains. No, I won't ever work with you. You killed them. He had tears streaming down his face. His voice was hoarse and cracked. The scene changed again to the USJ. Shigaraki had him pinned down while forcing him to look as Nomu crushed Aizawa's skull before going to the class. Stop. Shinso was sitting in a chair in the doctor's room alone at the moment, minus, of course, the two knocked-out people in the bed, since everyone else was busy. All the pros at work. Kaminari was being held captive by his parents, and Bakugo had left for a second to get a drink, so it was only him in the room. It was pretty silent other than the monitors. Shinso had just been scrolling on his phone, bored out of his mind, when he noticed something. He walked over to Izuku's bed and noticed him fidgeting. He was drenched in sweat and seemed to be talking to someone. That's when he noticed his hands having a bluish-purple glow to them. Izuku, are you okay? He reached a hand out and ran it through the other's hair, knowing that usually calmed the other down. Stop! Izuku jolted awake and pushed Shinso, making him fall on the ground with a grunt. Izuku stood up off and bed about to run, but almost fell as soon as his legs hit the floor. He let out a quiet whimper before standing back up and trying to run again. He threw the door open and looked down the halls before going to the left. He was panting as he turned down another hall, looking around wildly for an exit. He turned another corner before running face first into two people. He fell back with a yelp while the other two grunt. He looked up a little shocked to see Todoroki and Bakugo there. Deku, what the hell are you doing up? Izuku didn't respond, though, as he tried to stand up again, though his legs fell out from under him. Bakugo caught him a little shocked, though when he saw Izuku's eyes flickering slightly, he realized that Izuku wasn't all there. Oi, I see hot, cool, or hand, or some SHD. Bakugo ordered while still holding on to Izuku, who seemed even more panicked. Right, it'll shock his system. He cooled his hand before gently placing it against Izuku's head. He leaned into the touch and sighed with his eye closed. He slowly opened them and blinked a little. Kakin? Todoroki? When did? How did I? What's going on? He asked a little slurred while looking around. After the USJU dash, Todoroki was cut off as Izuku jumped and looked around, gripping onto Bakugo's arms. Oh my god, is everyone okay? Where's Dad? He was injured, and the dash. Bakugo growled. Deku, calm me F down. Everyone's F fine, except you and Aizawa-sensei. Izuku seemed to calm down a little. Oh my god, you run fast. They all turned to see Shinso leaning on the wall and trying to breath. Hitoshi, when did you get here? Izuku asked. He doesn't remember Shinso being there. I was in the room with you and Dad when you woke up, screamed, and then ran. Izuku's eyes widened before letting go of Baku. Oh no, I'm really sorry. I didn't hurt you, did I? He asked, looking over the other to see if there was anything wrong. No, I'm fine. You just shoved me is all. but you need to lay back down. You weren't supposed to be up and moving yet. Just as he finished, Izuku fell again, though this time, Shinso caught him. Sorry, that keeps happening. Izuku stood up again, this time more steady. Well, let's get you back to your room, shitty nerd. Bakuga sighed, pushing Izuku a little. And get you a shirt, Shinso pointed out. Izuku jumped and looked down, realizing he wasn't wearing a shirt. He did have pants, though, luckily though the bandages were covering most of his chest. Sorry. The four were now in the room, with Aizawa still knocked out. Todoroki, why are you here exactly? Not that I mind your company. It's just a little unexpected is all. I should stop talking now. He clamped his mouth shut with an audible click. It's fine. I just came to make sure you were okay. Izuku smiled at the other boy. You know SHD, you effing passed out in Icy Hot's arms. Bakuga pointed out, making Izuku blush. Shut up. He kicked the other slightly. Ow, F you. The two began play fighting, not enough to hurt Izuku though, since he was still covered in bandages. Not too long after the other three boys had to leave, Izuku had woken up pretty late in the day, so he didn't blame them. At the moment though Izuku was alone, he was sitting on the windowsill, leaning against it with his foot hanging out. He hummed quietly for a moment before opening his mouth. I had a dream, I got everything I wanted. He thought about the heroes he called family, not what did you think. He chuckled a little thinking about the time he went shopping with Midnight and Present Mike, almost getting kicked out. And if I'm being honest, images of his mother and father dying played in his head. It might have been a nightmare. To anyone who might care, he shifted so both his feet were now hanging, thought I could fly. So I stepped off the golden. He stood up slightly before sitting back down. Nobody cried. Nobody even noticed. He felt tears come to his eyes. I saw them standing right there. Kind of thought they might care. He reached a hand out before pulling back and running it through his hair. I had a dream. I got everything I wanted. But when I wake up, I see you with me. Images of Shigaraki flashed with his hand outstretched, getting close to Izuku's throat. And you say, as long as I'm here. No one can hurt you. Don't want to lie here, but you can learn to, if I could change the way that you see yourself, you wouldn't wonder why you here, they don't deserve you. He liked to think that the others actually did care about him. I tried to scream. The images of the chains and walls covered his eyes, but my head was underwater. They had tried to drown him. They call me weak, like I wasn't somebody's daughter. God, he missed his parents. Could have been a nightmare, but it felt like they were right there. And it feels like yesterday was a year ago. But I don't want to let anybody know, because everybody wants something from me now, and I don't want to let him down. He took a breath for a moment, his face covered in tears. He was hyperventilating again. It was like he was drowning in his own thoughts, and nothing would get through to him. Izuku. He jolted, realizing that Aizawa had his arms around him and was speaking to him. Dad, you're not supposed to be up. He moved a little and finally saw all the bandages wrapped around Aizawa, making him go into another sobbing fit. Oh, God, this is my fault. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't there. He choked again as he cried more. Hey, breath with me. You need to breath before you pass out. Come on, follow my breathing. In and out, in and out. It took Izuku a moment to try and match the older's breathing, but once he got it, he was more calm. This isn't your fault, problem child. This happened to me because of the villains, not you. But they were after me. And I wasn't fast enough to save you. And dash. Aizawa cut him off before he could start panicking again by pushing his face into his chest. You're a child. None of this is your fault. They were there to attack All Might. Not you. Izuku wanted to protest, but Aizawa wasn't letting him go anytime. Now get off the window ledge and lay down. Izuku nodded, getting off the ledge and following Aizawa back. Dad? Can I? He wasn't really sure what he was asking for, but he didn't want to be alone, though Aizawa seemed to understand what he was asking. Come here. Aizawa lifted the side of his blanket and patted the bed. Izuku shuffled over and cuddled into Aizawa's side. Now go to sleep, okay? Izuku nodded, slowly drifting off. Tired. Holy F, Izuku had me worried for a second. Loud. Really? This is how you tell us you're awake? Tired. Shut up and listen. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=8co_NPZ1WM8. Tired. I thought I would have to catch him for a second. 12 a.m. He has an amazing voice, almost cried, but I thought he was going to jump for a second. Tired. What do you think I felt? God. While he's a good singer, this is also worrying. I believe we should possibly have Hound Dog talk to the students and make sure they're cared for. Tired. Thank you, Nedzu. God. You're welcome. Now I suggest you all get some sleep. We have an interesting week ahead of us. On Monday, classes started up again, though some still seemed worried or fearful about what had happened. That was crazy, though. I can't believe you did that, Midoriya. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck a little awkwardly. Yeah, I'm just glad that everyone's okay. He explained, hoping to get the attention off of him. Luckily, Aizawa walked in, just in time. I'm glad to see you're all back and in good health. But remember, this doesn't mean we get to slow down. That shocked most of the class, except for Izuku, who knew what was coming up next. Next is the sports festival. Everyone was in class talking about the sports festival, and Uraraka was hyping them up in her own special way. We all need to do our best. Why'd she get so intense? What do you think, Midoriya? Ida asked. Izuku had to think about it for a minute. It sounds really interesting, but I'm a little nervous to fight people. He rubbed the back of his neck. What are you talking about? You're a great fighter. Denki tried to cheer him up, but it just made Shinso roll his eyes. Thanks, but that's not the part I'm worried about. Bakugu was walking to go to lunch when he opened the door, and it was blocked, that is. Shinso nodded in understanding. He had forgotten Izuku could see people everywhere and their emotions. Who are all these people? Why are they at the door? Bakugu scoffed. The extras are trying to scope out the competition. Not that it'll do them much good. Izuku stood up and nudged him in the side, making the other glare. So this is 1A? I don't see much. A blonde walked up with a cocky smirk. I don't see how it was your group that survived the USJ. I doubt my class would have had a lot of trouble. Izuku glared, his eyes flashing red for a moment, though Bakugu caught it. Whatever, just let us through, SHD head. Bakugu pushed past him with Kirishima, Kaminari, Shiro, and Mina following after him. The blonde then turned his attention back to Izuku. You don't seem that special either. Izuku just smiled at him. Your friends probably almost died with how weak they were. His eyes stayed red this time, and his smile turned more into an evil smirk. You're funny, you know that, right? If you want to see how better you would be, why don't we call them back and put you in the same situation? See how many of your friends make it through. Ida, Uraraka, Shinso, and Tsu all stood up and dragged him through the crowd. Sorry about him. He's a little touchy on the subject. They quickly all went to the lunchroom, leaving the blonde looking angry, though Izuku knew he was scared. Midoriya, are you okay? Izuku quirked an eyebrow. Your eyes are red. Izuku put a hand over one of his eyes before realizing, yes, it was red. Sorry, he just made me a little angry. I'll be fine after a minute. The group all looked to each other, not exactly believing him. Whatever you say. It was the day of the sports festival, and they all seemed a little nervous, though some were more hyped up than everyone else. You okay, Midoriya? Uraraka asked, seeing him looking a little nervous and overwhelmed. Why, just nervous, and there are a lot of people. She nodded her head in understanding, remembering a few things he had mentioned about his quirk. Well, I think you'll do great. We got this. She cheered, making him smile. Yeah, you're right. The two high-fived and laughed a little before someone interrupted them. Midoriya. Izuku turned to Todoroki and smiled. Speaking quirk-wise, we're equals. Though you seem better hand-to-hand, I still plan on beating you. Everyone in the waiting room grew quiet. Whoa, Todoroki. No need to get all serious. We're all friends here, Kirishima said, putting a hand on Todoroki's shoulder. Todoroki glared and hit the hand off. I'm not here to make friends. He turned back to Izuku. I will be winning this competition. With that, Todoroki left Izuku, standing there staring at his back. Geez, that guy needs a chill pill. Uraraka commented. Izuku looked back at her. Something like that. The image of the fighting colors around Todoroki stuck in his mind. After they announced all the classes, they all stood in front of the podium with Midnight talking. Now we have the champion speech. So the person who scored the highest in the entrance exam. Izuku was a little confused since he didn't know how the scoring worked exactly. So, Bakugu Katsuki, please come up. They all watched as he stomped up to the microphone. I just want to say, I'm going to win. Everyone started yelling at him, while all Izuku could do was try not to laugh. He honestly didn't expect anything different from him. Well then, let's get to our first competition, which will be, she directed their eyes to the lottery machine obstacle course. They all stood at the entrance of the tunnel. Izuku noticed quickly that his class was scattered around. He looked to the tunnel, and it dawned on him. This is the first obstacle. As the counter started going down, he used his own emotions to start the tiles on the ground. Go! He immediately jumped up and started using the tiles to get higher and higher until he was above everyone. At the exit of the tunnel, he jumped down and rolled, seeing Todoroki, Momo, Katsuki, and Kirishima already out of the tunnel. He smirked and started running next to them. He saw the robots in front of them and started to create a staff until Todoroki froze the 0-pointers while others started dealing with the smaller ones. He stopped with the pole and just used his own strength against the robots. Breaking off a large flat piece, he smirked. This'll come in handy, he thought before tying it onto his back and getting past the other robots. He came to a large gourd with wires going across it. If I use the tiles, it'll tire me out more. But it'll take too long to crawl across these. Deciding on tiles, he focused for a moment before taking off sprinting. The only issue was if he lost concentration for even a moment, he could fall and plummet to the ground. Looks like Midoriya is catching up to them. And what's this? He has scrap metal tied to his back. He heard President Mike yell through the speakers. He's likely going to use it at the end. It's a smart strategic move on his part. He smirked hearing Aizawa's explanation. When he finally made it to the end and saw the mines along with Bakugo and Todoroki fighting, he knew he didn't have much time. Let's hope this works. He began digging up the mines around him into a pile without making them explode. After a minute, he had dug up a lot and smiled before jumping onto it. What the heck was that? He flew through the air before getting close to where the other two were. He smirked before yelling at them. Sorry, Kakin. Sorry, Todoroki. He planted his feet on their backs, making them look at him shocked. But I don't plan on losing either. He slammed the scrap metal onto the ground, causing another explosion, and rolled forward before standing and running as fast as he could to the exit. And the winner is Midoriya Izuku. Izuku ran through the exit and almost collapsed as soon as he made it to the grassy area, though he did actually collapse after a second. As everyone else filtered in, Bakugo ran up and tackled him into a headlock. You F nerd. Kakin, stop. Shinso walked over and just stared at them for a moment before kicking them both. What? Katsuki yelled. We're on TV, assholes. Katsuki stood up and rolled his eyes. What the F ever? Now, on to the next competition. Midnight announced as all the students stood in front of a large podium. Izuku could feel glares on him from some of the other students, but shoved it aside. The next round will be Cavalry Battle. Midnight began to explain the rules before she began explaining the points. And the person that came in first will have 1,000,000 points. And that's when Izuku felt everyone's eyes on him. His quirk fired up slightly as he felt everyone's emotions all aimed at him before it calmed down. Now everyone split up into teams. And just like that, everyone walked away from Izuku, leaving him alone. Okay, I have to think about this. He looked around and saw a few people looking at him. If I can get some good people on my side, then Izuku's train of thought was cut off by Uraraka. Midoriya, let's team up. Izuku sighed with relief and looked ready to cry. Thank you so much, Uraraka. No one else was talking to me. She sent him a thumbs up and laughed. Of course. We gotta stick together. We're friends. Izuku smiled at that. We should ask Ida too. Izuku looked over to Ida and already saw the colors. I don't think so, Uraraka. Besides, he's already teamed up with Todoroki. He made eye contact with Ida, who only glared before looking away. Mr. 1 Mil. Someone sped over and tackled Izuku, scaring him a little. Let me join your team. Izuku looked at the girl clinging to his back. Hi, why do you want to join? The girl got off and offered her hand. My name is Mei Hatsumi, and I want to join your team since everyone's eyes will be on you. I'll get to show off my babies. Uraraka blushed. What? Izuku looked at the other girl confused. My babies. She pulled out a bunch of gadgets and started showing them off. With me on your team, I'll be able to give you more support, and you can show off my babies. Izuku smirked and held out his hand. You've got yourself a deal. Izuku turned, and his eyes focused on his next teammate. Now I know who will ask next. I must thank you for asking me, Midoriya. Most people wouldn't want a person of darkness on their team. Izuku finished tying the band to his head and smiled. Of course I asked Tokoyami. You have an amazing quirk, and you're a good fighter. Tokoyami blushed at the praise, though ignored it mostly. Thank you, my friend. Hopefully I made you justice. I trust you, Tokoyami. Izuku turned to Mei and Uraraka. And I hope you guys can trust me, because it's going to get rocky. 3. Izuku lowered himself a little too. He created a small ball of almost clear energy. 1. He heard the jetpack slowly start go. As soon as she said that, all the teams went straight to them. Up. The group took off into the sky, causing some teams to crash into each other. Izuku used the energy and created a large enough platform for them to all stand on and wait. I can only keep us all up here for a short amount of time before I run out of energy. I can drag more from the other students, but if someone notices, we might be in trouble. Not to worry, 1 mil. My babies can handle it just fine. Izuku nodded, already feeling the after effects. Normally he could hold them, but with how often he had used his quirk and the amount of emotions today, it was a little overwhelming. I gotta drop. Ready. The 3 nodded as Izuku let the force field disappear. As they fell, Mei's support items began working. As they got closer to the ground, Uraraka used the boots and her quirk to make them land safely. Izuku used his own quirk and created a force field for him to land on before letting them catch him. You okay, Uraraka? The girl nodded her head, but Izuku could see the strain from the quirk usage. Okay, we can do that maybe one more time before I'm out. He didn't say anything about Uraraka, since he knew she seemed sad about it. Understood. Roger that. Izuku looked around and saw that most of the teams had left them alone, but a few were still going after the gold. We're gonna do some risky moves, okay? Trust me and just run forward, okay? The 3 nodded. The teams were almost all lined up as Izuku crouched. He created 2 daggers, 1 blue one and a yellow one. The team ran forward towards the other teams. Izuku jumped from his team and let them run forward. Twisting, he threw the blue one, creating a sheet of water on the ground. The teams looked at him confused before he threw down the yellow one, lighting up the water with electricity, shocking the teams. Izuku created small platforms and used them to push off and avoid the ground as he snatched the headbands. Pushing off the final one, Tokoyami used Dark Shadow and caught him. Midoriya, that was crazy. I love your style, 1 mil. Good job, Midoriya. Izuku smiled as he tied the extra headbands around his neck. We're not out of the woods yet. Izuku looked over to Shoji and saw Tsu and Mineta there. Look out. It wasn't fast enough, though, as one of the boots got stuck. We're grounded. We can't lift off again. Izuku glared around as he saw the other teams ready to take advantage. Yes, we can. Izuku created a gauntlet of white and held it up. Hold on. He pinched towards the ground, creating a large vortex of wind pushing them up. Izuku caught them on a platform, though they noticed something wrong with his hand right away. Midoriya, what happened to your hand? Tokoyami asked, seeing it already start to bruise. Don't worry about it. He moved his hand behind him a little. I can keep us up here for another minute. When we land, I'll only be able to do a few things. I'm sorry. That's okay, Midoriya. You got us out of there. She's right, 1 mil. We can win this. Drop us, baby. I got it from here. Izuku nodded and dropped them like Mei said. The jetpack whirled to life and let them land safely. Izuku rubbed at his eyes and head a little. He already felt numb, and with the added pain in his hand, he looked down right angry, yet tired. Midoriya? You okay? Uraraka asked since they had a moment to breath. HM? Yeah, he rotated his head a little and cracked his shoulder. Overusage, I'll act a little weird for a while. The 3 nodded in understanding. He looked around and saw Todoroki's team in front of them. He glared at the team and sighed, now noticing the ice around them, keeping them locked in the area. We got company. Izuku focused on Ida and saw the colors move, then fire coming from his engines. Run forward as fast as possible now. The team took off as the other team shot off. The others looked shocked as Izuku jumped up, used a platform, and landed on his team behind them. Todoroki glared at him and growled, almost making Izuku smirk and laugh. What's wrong? Did I shock ya? He saw the confusion on his classmates' faces. He was acting strange. "What's gotten into you, Midoriya?" Kamienri asked, a little confused. "None of your business." He focused back on Todoroki. "But you seem curious about it, don't you? Or is it for the points?" The other team turned back to them. Izuku smirked and tilted his head. "So how about it? Small showdown, and whoever wins gets the points." "Midoriya, what are you doing?" "I like your risk 1 mil. Tread lightly, Midoriya." Todoroki glared at him. Izuku saw his colors grow more intense on one side, while the other seemed to die down. "Fine then, Midoriya." Ice formed on his arm. "Come at me." Izuku chuckled darkly. "No, you want the points? Come and get them." Izuku already had some energy left over. He was changing it to a light blue with a plan already in mind. The two teams came at each other. Izuku smirked when he aimed at Todoroki's left side. On instinct, the other's arm lit on fire. He cut Todoroki's arm with the dagger, causing it to freeze. His other hand came up and snagged a headband from Todoroki before dodging and keeping his own headband. The two got away from each other. "We did it! Holy CRP! Congratulations, Midoriya." Izuku smirked, already hearing and seeing Bakugo about to jump over the ice border. "You know, Todoroki, I was a little shocked to see the fire. Thought it was only ice." The other glared, and Izuku saw the red growing stronger, though it didn't mean much when Bakugo jumped over and came into view and already aimed at Izuku, who just smiled evilly at them. "Time's up. We have our winners." In fourth place is Team Shinso. In third is Team Bakugo. Second is Team Todoroki. And finally, keeping all of their points, is Team Midoriya. The teams celebrated when they were announced. They let Izuku down, who still seemed a little out of it. "Midoriya, are you okay?" Uraraka asked, looking at him worriedly. Izuku looked at her board for a second before he seemed to snap out of it. "Oh, yes, sorry. I just overused my quirk, making me act weirdly." He waved her off a little. He knew it would be maybe an hour before he was acting normal. He could still use his quirk just fine, but it could go wrong. "Midoriya." The team turned around to see Todoroki standing there. He felt a little bad for the way he acted, but he couldn't exactly help it. "I need to talk to you." Izuku saw Uraraka step up a little alone. He sent a small glance to Kaminari and Bakugo, who looked like they also wanted to talk. "Sure, lead the way." The two walked into an empty corridor, though out of the corner of his eye he could see Bakugo nearby, and a camera pointed at him. "You made me break a promise." Izuku looked at him a little confused. "I promised to never use his quirk, and you made me." His eyes widened a little. Well, that makes sense. It was a stressful situation. He could see a flurry of emotions surrounding Todoroki, but the most prominent ones were sadness and anger. "Midoriya, do you know what a quirk marriage is?" Todoroki finished and was staring at his hand. Izuku couldn't move for a moment before something finally snapped him out of it. "I didn't know what quirks were for a long time." Todoroki looked to him, no emotion showing, but Izuku could see them. "I thought everyone could see the colors around us. When I learned about them, I thought they were the greatest, something that made us all different." He took a small step forward and looked Todoroki in the eyes. "But the quirk isn't you." "But it's not him." Todoroki glared like he wanted to fight back on it. "I'll help you realize that." Izuku turned and walked down the corridor, grabbing Bakugo and going to where he knew Nedza was. "What the hell was that?" Bakugo demanded as they almost ran down the halls. Every time I looked at him, his emotions were never whole, like there was something stopping them. It's harder to draw emotions from him. But when he talked like that, when he used his fire for a moment, it was easier, clearer. "We have to help him, Kakin." Izuku knew he had tears in his eyes. The amount of emotion that Todoroki had piled up almost hurt him. He didn't want to think about what it was doing to Todoroki. Bakugo studied him for a moment before nodding and following after. "Oh, boys, what do I owe the pleasure?" Nedzu asked as they both ran into the viewing room. The other teachers were looking at them worryingly, since Izuku still had tears in his eyes. "Please tell me you have the cameras in the corridors recording." He was panting slightly. Nedzu stood up with Midnight following and pulled them out into the hall. "Izuku, honey, what's wrong?" Midnight asked, whipping some of the tears off his face. Izuku tried to speak, but his voice got caught in his throat. Midnight tried to calm him down a little, while Bakugo turned to Nedzu. Half-and-Half's dad is a SHD bag, been abusing him and his family for ever, and did some illegal SHD. Deku got caught up in the loser's emotions, so he can't focus right now. Nedzu nodded his head and patted Izuku on the leg. It's quite all right, Izuku. The cameras are recording. We'll do what we can to help the boy. It'll be all right. Izuku nodded his head and tried to focus on the other's emotions. He could feel slight worry from Midnight, concern and determination from Nedzu, and anger from Bakugo. After a minute, it was able to drown out the emotions he had picked up from Todoroki. Are you okay? Izuku nodded his head. He felt drained again. In a different way, though, make sure he gets some water and food, all right? Bakugo nodded and pulled him back from the teachers as they went to the break area, quickly shoving him to their groups who were talking animatedly. Izuku. Denki pulled him into a hug, making him laugh. That was wild. What happened out there? Izuku rubbed the back of his neck with a small smile. Sorry, it's what happens when I overuse my quirk. I get drained of any emotions I have and start drawing it from others. That's what I normally do, but it was on a bigger scale, and everyone was so angry and competitive. It is quite all right, Midoriya. We understand. Though the ending was quite interesting, I wasn't expecting it. Ida complimented as he chopped his hands up and down. Yeah, it's all good. Uraraka paused, looking at him. Wait, were you crying? Are you okay? Izuku waved her off. It's fine. Just freaked out a little. It's nothing. The group didn't seem to believe him, but put it aside for the moment. They had to prepare for the next round. Next up is our 1v1s. The first up, Shinso Hitoshi of Class 1A. We haven't seen much of him, but he seems silent and deadly. Against Midoriya Izuku, also of Class 1A, a fierce fighter who has been shocking us. The two stood across from each other. Izuku tried to keep a determined face as he got ready, though Shinso stood almost boredly. Doesn't really surprise me they put us against each other first. You have a strong quirk, and mine's not. They'll just try to boost your ego a little at this point. Izuku frowned a little. He could see annoyance, worry, and anxiety dancing around the other. Hitoshi, what are you talking about? Izuku was genuinely confused. He knew the other didn't grow up in a good environment, being bullied, abused, everything until Aizawa and Hizashi adopted him. You really don't see it, Izuku? It's what they do, weed out the weaker quirks, so only the strong and flashy stay standing. Go! As soon as he said that, Izuku and Shinso ran at each other. But you wouldn't know that, would you? Izuku tried to focus on the fight and not on Shinso. You didn't grow up with that. You grew up surrounded by heroes, constantly getting their attention with a powerful quirk. You even had to save me to make yourself feel better, didn't you? That isn't Dash. Izuku felt Shinso take control and wanted to hit himself. He knew Shinso was just trying to get a reaction out of him, but he was still a little hurt. Shinso didn't know that much about him other than, yes, heroes did talk to him a lot. He was practically adopted by all of them. He had a quirk considered powerful, and he lived on the street for a while. You really are my hero, Izuku. Now walk out of bounds for me. Not being able to control his body, he turned and started slowly walking towards the edge. Come on. He could feel himself trying to fight against it, but it was like a strong fog covering his mind, pulling him deeper each time he tried to get out. There has to be a way to break out. He tried focusing on his quirk and found that it was still active. He created an electric dagger and dropped it on his foot, cutting into his shoe and shocking his system. He took in a greedy breath of air as he fell to one of his knees. He could feel the burn and lingering electricity still working its way through him and rubbing against his shoe wrong. Izuku. He turned and saw concern and worry overtake Shinsu's emotions before he tried to mask it. How do you break out? Izuku stood up, but didn't answer before running at him. What? Too good to answer me. No dash. Shinso was cut off as Izuku elbowed him in the stomach before grabbing his arm and flipping him. The two kept attacking with Shinso, trying to get another rise out of him. He hadn't noticed that Izuku was slowly pushing him toward the edge until he finally used his quirk to send a shock wave, forcing him back and out of bounds. Midoriya wins. Shinso was panting and staring at Izuku, who was also trying to catch his breath. Izuku dash. The teen in question winced before grabbing his foot in pain. What happened? Shinso stood up and helped the other stay balanced as BLD dripped from his shoe. The dagger cut through. Shinso winced a little as Izuku shifted to rest against the other. Can you take me to Grandma Chio? Yeah, of course. Can you walk? Izuku nodded a little as they hobbled out of the stadium. And a great show of sportsmanship. You need to be more careful. You could have seriously injured yourself. She scolded him as she wrapped his foot. I won't be able to use too much of my quirk, but you need a rest. I'm really sorry, Grandma Chio. He had been, but it was all he could think of at the time. It's partially my fault too, sorry. Shinso apologized, rubbing the back of his neck a little. No. It's fine. Really, Hitoshi, you were trying to get me to respond, and you were only using your quirk. Izuku tried to defend, though Shinso still looked sorry, and don't worry about what you said. You don't really know much, and it was a good way to dash. Shinso cut him off. What do you mean I don't know much? Izuku got quiet, realizing what he had said. I'll leave you boys to talk for a moment. Recovery Girl left the two in silence as Izuku stared at the ground, and Shinso looked worried. Izuku, the teen flinched and looked up before looking to the side. What do you mean I don't know? Izuku stared off a little before taking a deep breath and turning forward. I was hunted for my quirk. He looked to Shinso to make sure he was listening to the villains at the USJ were after me. They killed my parents. There was a PRGNE pause. Izuku looked up for a moment, seeing Shinso just staring at him. He began to stand up as he spoke. It's really fine, Hitoshi, you didn't dash. Suddenly, Izuku was tackled into a warm embrace. Almost falling back onto the bed, he stood there frozen as he saw different colors swim around Shinso, mostly of regret. Izuku, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said all of that like your life was easy. What was I even thinking? I knew you lived on the street. I didn't think about why and dash. Izuku hugged him back and buried his head into the other's shoulder. Hitoshi, the other paused for a moment. It's okay. You know now, right? And you were just doing what you could. I forgive you. The arms around his waist tightened a little. I'm still sorry. Izuku laughed a little and made eye contact with the other. And I still forgive you. The two finally made it back to the class and sat next to Bakugo and Kaminari. Hey, you did great out there, Izuku. Your foot okay? Kaminari asked, noticing the bandages and lack of shoe. Oh yeah, it's fine. It just got cut and burned a little. You sure? If you need anything, I can go get it for you. You probably shouldn't walk too much with that, right? Izuku nodded. Yeah, Recovery Girl said not to. He looked out to the crowd and saw Ida and Hatsum. Has anything happened yet? He noticed the support items Ida had on him and was a little confused. Well, she took over the announcements and is using Ida as a show pony. Kaminari tried to explain without laughing, though near the end it didn't work as she kept talking and Ida looked dejected. Oh boy. Izuku smiled a little, though Ida didn't seem to be as happy as he was. Who are you guys up against next? Oh, that 1B girl with the vines. She seems cool, though. Round face. Izuku nodded and looked back to the fight, though it wasn't really a fight, and it looked like Hatsum had dropped out since she had shown off everything she wanted to. I think I'm up against Todoroki next. The three looked at him for a moment. Don't worry, I have a plan. Bakugo glared a little and signed to him. An actual plan, or one where you help him and get hurt. Izuku rolled his eyes a little and signed back. I won't get hurt. Bakugo stared at him for a moment, maybe. He threw his hands up with a growl. What just happened? Kaminari asked, looking between the two. Shinso understood sign, but figured it was private if they didn't say it out loud. He only shrugged his shoulders a little and looked back to the arena as Kaminari whined at the two. Izuku was walking back from the vending machine. Even though the three tried to insist that he stay in his seat, he had wanted to move around a little. His foot was feeling better anyway. You! He jumped and whipped around at the voice, seeing Endeavor walking down the hall. You seem to have some brain on you. Izuku frowned a little at the hero and a possible good quirk. You will be a stepping stone for my creation. He's not your creation. He's a person. Izuku felt his eyes glow a little, but ignored it as he walked a little closer. And you can't control him like that. Someone will stop you. Endeavor growled and stepped closer to Izuku, who hadn't backed down. You will not speak to me like that. I am a number 2 pro hero. Izuku only glared till a voice spoke. We got a problem here. They both turned to see Snipe with his hands on his hips. This child was Dash, Izuku glared and cut him off. Sorry, Uncle Snipe. I was just getting a drink and ran into him. Nothing's wrong. Endeavor looked between the two before huffing and walking away. You sure you're okay, kid? Snipe asked, ruffling his hair. Izuku only smiled and nodded. Yep, Pope is already fixing it. He saw the slight shiver at the mention of Nedzu, but didn't say anything else. Alrighty then, kid. Let's get you back to your friends. Izuku found Bakugo stretching before his fight with Uraraka. Kakin. The blonde turned and smirked. Sup, nerd? Come and wish me luck, huh? Izuku rolled his eyes a little and hugged the other. Good luck out there, Kakin. You'll be amazing. Katsuki barked out a laugh. Hell yeah, I will. Izuku rolled his eyes again before leaving the other to finish getting ready. He found Uraraka and Ida in the prep room with Ida trying to give her ideas. I think you'll be amazing no matter what, Uraraka. You'll come up with something. He saw her colors turn lighter and more away from dread. Thanks. I know I'll win with you both cheering me on. Watching the fight had been intense, and it was fun watching Aizawa tear the pro heroes a new one when they were being sexist. He knew that Uraraka would take it hard. He wanted to comfort her at least. Oh, I'm fine. Really? Izuku just leveled her with a slightly sad look. You know you can't lie about emotions with me, Uraraka. It was silent for a moment before Izuku hugged her, and she finally cried. Izuku stood on the arena with a smile. He had a plan to help Todoroki, and he would, whether the other wanted it or not. Next up, Midoriya Izuku, who's been fighting and winning his way to the top, versus Todoroki Shudo, who's been cold to all his opponents and freezing his way up. Todoroki shifted his foot, and Izuku knew he was going to send a glacier at him. Go! The ice shot towards him at high speeds. Izuku brought his first back and made a white gauntlet before smashing the ice to pieces and sending a wave of air, pushing Todoroki back a little. Ice won't work on me, Todoroki. Izuku began running at him as more ice raced towards him. He brought his arm back again and hit it before flipping over the wall of ice and sliding down it. I'm not using his quirk. Izuku glared, spinning a little before elbowing the other in the stomach, grabbing onto his hair and flipping him over Izuku's shoulder. Izuku could still see the conflicting emotions dancing around the other. It's not his. He dodged another wave of ice before using his other hand on the next shot. It never belonged to him. Todoroki growled and dodged the punch before ducking under the kick Izuku sent. So what? You plan on breaking yourself for this? Izuku looked down to his hands for a moment before looking back at Todoroki. Like you're any better. You're shivering, Todoroki. The teen glared and sent another glacier before Izuku destroyed it again. Use it. You're only hurting yourself, no one else. He jumped over another wave and kicked the other in the stomach, sending him back. I'll win without his quirk. Izuku groaned a little before creating a fire dagger and throwing it at the ice around Todoroki, making it melt. It's not his. It's your quirk. Izuku saw the emotions flare out again and turn and spin around each other, like it was fighting for control. My quirk is the reason my parents aren't here, but it's still a part of me. It's mine just like it's yours. The other teen froze, and Izuku let him stay silent. He could see the strong emotions winning over, wanting freedom. He smiled wide, though, when fire began to dance around the other. Thank you, Midoriya. You're crazy. Izuku let out a laugh and created a few different daggers. You aren't the only one to tell me this. The two smiled before charging at each other. Izuku changed the daggers to combine and make gauntlets, feeling an almost electrical charge form around him as they collided. Everyone was silent as they waited for the dust to dissipate. After a moment, it cleared, showing Todoroki still in bounds and Izuku slightly out of bounds. Todoroki wins. Izuku smiled at Todoroki as the other panted, trying to catch his breath from the collision. The two stared at each other before Izuku's eyes started to flutter shut. Midoriya. Todoroki ran forward and caught the other as Shinso, Bakugo, and Denki all ran down to meet them at the tunnel. Midoriya, are you okay? Todoroki tried shaking him awake a little, getting mostly a groan before Izuku stood up straighter. Why, yeah, I think. He rubbed at his eyes while Todoroki held on to him. Sorry, I'm out of it again. Todoroki gave him a confused look before remembering how he acted during the cavalry battle. You act rude, right? Izuku glared a little. I'm not that rude. Todoroki stared at him as if to say, really? With a sigh, they started walking towards the tunnel. Okay, maybe I'm a little rude. Todoroki nods before helping him to Recovery Girl. You're an absolute idiot. Bakugu yelled as the others watched. You said you wouldn't get hurt, you dumbass. Izuku smirked a little. Technically, I said I wouldn't get hurt, maybe. Shinso and Denki watched the conversation like a tennis match. I don't give a SHD what you said. Izuku watched silently as Bakugu continued on about how he shouldn't be so stupid and a million other things. His eyes drifted to the others every now and again, giving them a small smile or wave as Bakugu continued. Okay, Azula, I think Izuku and Rip-Off Zuko get it. Shinso joked as he made the other blonde sit down. FUI bags. The two went back and forth while Denki watched them a little amazed. Todoroki walked over and sat next to Izuku. Are they always like this? Denki perked up and turned to them. Almost definitely, it's never ending. Denki joined the other two on the bed as Shinso and Bakugu kept yelling at each other. Should we stop them? No, it'll ruin the fun. Izuku said as he watched the emotions dance back and forth. It was obvious there wasn't any heat behind any of the words, but he always worried over the small things. No offense, but why are you still here? Todoroki shrugged a little. He didn't really have a need. Recovery Girl had given him a new shirt and the seal of approval. Izuku, he wanted to watch the girls fight. At that, the other two soon dragged Denki into the fighting. Those was more of jokes and memes than insults thrown around. So they just always do this, randomly? Todoroki asked again. Izuku rolled his eyes a little playfully. Yep, it's really fun, honestly. Todoroki nodded a little as continued to watch them. Todoroki, if you ever need to talk, I'll listen. Thank you, Midoriya. Izuku chuckled a little and nudged him. Just Izuku works, you know? Todoroki stared at him before nodding. They watched as Denki and Shinso slowly lost their acts and started laughing hysterically while Bakugu smiled triumphantly. Izuku had bandages wrapped around his waist, arms, and a few on his face, but he was still happy with the outcome. He knew the others still might not be able to fight with his fire right away, and that it would PSS off Bakugu, who would attack him more intensely than needed. Little listener. Izuku turned to present Mike, who was running towards him. Nim told me about what happened. Are you sure you're all right? Izuku nodded with a smile, feeling more like himself now that he wasn't drained. I promise. Did they tell you about Todoroki? Izuku hesitantly asked. If he hadn't heard, he didn't want to have to tell the others everything. It was still Todoroki's business after all, but it was still important. He did. That's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you. We want to make sure Todoroki has a good place to stay while he deals with everything. We already talked to Hitoshi, and he agreed to it. How would you feel about Todoroki staying with us? Maybe permanently. Izuku stood there frozen before he tackled Present Mike into a hug. Thank you. Mike only smiled as he hugged the team back and patted his head. You know us, always having to help the kids. Izuku laughed a little and pulled away. He could see overflowing love at the statement, making him smile more. Thank you, Dad Mike. Present Mike only smiled before ruffling his hair and leading him back to the stands with the rest of the class. Izuku hadn't been able to stay awake long enough to see the outcome of the sports festival, but he knew Bakugu would win. Looking at Todoroki, he knew that their fight had helped, but it didn't fix it. He still wasn't ready yet. That was such bullshit, though. I should have just killed the little Bakugu shouted, still stomping around his house. Both of his parents were out, so Izuku had decided to bother him. You've been saying that for the last half hour, Kakin. Izuku giggled as the blonde stared at him. In another half hour, I'll go beach. That made Izuku break down in laughter. Trying to calm himself down, he pulled out his phone and saw 3 different texts. One from Shinso, seeing if he could go to the other's house and help him. One from Denki asking to hang out. And one from Aizawa saying that Todoroki was at their house. Oh no, he got the explosives boy's attention. Can we go to my place? Apparently Shinso and Todoroki are alone there while the teachers deal with his dad. Only so I can beat his butt again. Izuku nodded absent-mindedly as he sent them all a text. including one to have Denki meet them at the house. When Shinso heard a knock on the door, he expected to see Izuku and Bakugo, but he, however, did not expect Denki. "What are you doing at my house?" The blonde seemed just as surprised. "In my defense, Izuku told me to come here." Shinso stared at him before sighing. "Get in." Denki cheered and walked in. "Hi, Todoroki. My man. How's it going?" he asked, flopping on the couch next to him. "I'm fine. I don't really know why I'm here, though." "Because we said so." Shinso joined them on the couch, grabbing the remote, and began looking for a movie. "What do we want to watch?" Oh. Have either of you seen The Velasel Pastor?" Denki asked excitedly. When both of them shook their heads, he snatched the remote and typed it in. "It's the greatest movie ever, and you can quote me on that." "It already sounds dumb." He kicked Shinso in the leg as he loaded up the movie. "You'll love it." Todoroki nodded, trusting Denki on it. "Do we miss anything?" Izuku asked as they walked in, both of them taking the open chair to their left. "He's making us watch Velasel Pastor." Izuku gasped while Bakugo groaned. "That's the best movie." "No, it's not. It sucks." No one made the motion to stop Denki from playing the movie, though. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Created Spirit Animal. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Jace is Dead for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on archiveofourown.org for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.